Chapter 163. After Shinta Tianyin praised Charlotte, Gu Kawu also expressed his opinion. He took out a business card and handed it to Charlotte with both hands. Mr. Xia, this is my business card. There's my phone number on it. Let's have tea when we're free. Well, you can also look for me for business matters. I'm willing to cooperate with an outstanding entrepreneur like you. Thank you. Charlotte also stood up and took Gu Kawu's business card with both hands. However, he knew that this was just a show for Gu Kawu in front of Shinta Tianyin. Gu Kawu would never be able to become his friend, not because of anything else, but because he had killed a loyal hound of the Gu family, Huang Yihu. However, Gu Kawu handed over his business card in a graceful manner. If Charlotte didn't accept it with a straight face, then he wouldn't have any manners. After taking Gu Kawu's business card, Charlotte saw the title of Gu Kawu on the business card, Vice Chairman of the Northern Group. Mr. Xia, it seems that I was right to invite you over. Look, you made a friend so quickly. Shinta Tianyin's voice was clear and light. However, this is not my purpose. I invited you here because I want to talk to you about Ning Yuanshan. With just this sentence, a lot of thoughts flashed through Charlotte's mind. You know, our Wanxiang Group has signed a wind power project with Dongfeng Heavy Industry, and Dongfeng Heavy Industry will provide us with equipment. But now that Ning Yuanshan has been arrested, Dongfeng Heavy Industry is now leaderless, and we've all been affected. We're waiting for the last batch of equipment, but something like this has happened. Dongfeng Heavy Industry can no longer deliver to us on time. I'm worried about this matter. You're an expert in this area. Can you give me a suggestion? Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte with some anticipation in his eyes. Ning Yuanshan was arrested, and Charlotte was also present at the time. He even beat Ren Wenxiang until his nose was bruised. With Shinta Tianyin's capability, how could she not know about such a thing? Although Shinta Tianyin didn't say that Ning Yuanshan's arrest was related to him, he knew that she more or less knew the truth. She just didn't say it out loud. Charlotte thought for a moment before saying, Miss Shintu, I don't know the specifics of the situation, so I don't dare to give you any advice. If you can give me more details. In that case, I might be able to give you a suggestion. Shinta Tianyin was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slightly and said, This is not the place to talk. Let's make an appointment tomorrow. Charlotte smiled in agreement. A contemptuous snort came from Gu Qian's nostrils. Sister Tianyin, the Wanxiang Group is full of talents. Do you really need Mr. Xia's advice? Shinta Tianyin said, You said that because you don't know Mr. Xia. He is the best expert in the country. Although our Wanxiang Group has a lot of talents, no one can compare with Mr. Xia in this aspect. Is there anything wrong with me asking Mr. Xia for advice? Gu Qian repeatedly targeted Shinta Tianyin, which made Shinta Tianyin unhappy. There was a hint of displeasure in his tone. Gu Qian still wanted to say something, but Gu Kawu glared at her, and she closed her mouth. Gu Kawu said with a smile, So it's really my honor to meet Mr. Xia. Let's have a few drinks later. Charlotte smiled and said, Mr. Gu, you're too polite. It's me who feels honored. Shinta Tianyin said lightly, You don't have to be polite. At this time, a slightly fat man came to the table with a blonde foreigner. The man was in his early 50s, wearing a loose suit and had a friendly smile on his face. The blonde foreigner standing next to him was tall and gave off a very healthy vibe. Second uncle, you're here. Sit down, said Shinta Tianyin. Uncle Lee, please sit down. Gu Kawu and Gu Qian also greeted him. Kawu, Qian, we're all old acquaintances. You don't have to be so polite, the man said with a smile, looking very casual. It was the first time that Charlotte met him, so it was not easy to greet him. However, listening to Shinta Tianyin's address, he also guessed that the man's name was Shinta Yi. Sure enough, Shinta Tianyin then introduced to Charlotte, Mr. Xia. This is my second uncle, Shinta Yi. After someone introduced him, Charlotte stood up and stretched out his hand. He said with a smile, Hello, Mr. Shintu. My name is Charlotte. Nice to meet you. Xia Lei? Shintu Yi only said these two words. He shook Xia Lei's hand symbolically, and that was it. Charlotte sat down awkwardly. He saw the contemptuous smile at the corner of Gu Qian's mouth. She seemed to be happy to see him being looked down upon. Gu Kawu was very calm. He maintained a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. He looked very elegant and very graceful. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, compared to Gu Kawu, Gu Qian is still a little too inexperienced. Shintu Yi said, Tianyin, let me introduce you. This is Mr. Conrad, an electrical engineer I invited from Germany. He can help us solve the problems we're currently facing. Nice to meet you, Miss Tianji. Nice to meet you. The German called Conrad took the initiative to extend his hand to Shinta Tianyin, looking very graceful. Shinta Tianyin was slightly stunned before he stood up from his seat and shook hand with Conrad. Hello, Mr. Conrad. Mr. Conrad, please sit down. Shintu Yi pulled out a chair for Conrad. Shoot. Conrad's Chinese was very bad. Shintu Yi and Conrad sat down. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Conrad, and he couldn't help but guess in his heart, what problem did Shintu Yi invite an electrical engineer from Germany to solve? Just now, Shinta Tianyin asked me to meet tomorrow, and he also said that he wanted me to give him a suggestion. Could it be the same thing? Charlotte's gaze quietly shifted to Shinta Tianyin's face again. He saw that her delicate eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and she seemed to be a little unhappy. Conrad suddenly said in German, Irenik scheint glücklich. What he said was, your niece seems to be unhappy. Shintu Yi hesitated for a moment before nodding. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Shintu Yi, and he quickly discovered that there was a miniature receiver in Shintu Yi's ear that was smaller than a button. His left eye twitched slightly, and then he saw an electronic device in the pocket of his suit. His heart skipped a beat. This Shintu Yi is so strange. He brought a German electrical engineer to the banquet, but he also brought equipment that only spies and secret agents would use, and someone translated for him in time. What the hell is he doing? What did he say? Shinta Tianyin seemed to have sensed that Conrad was talking about her, and she said with some displeasure. Shintu Yi shook his head. Tianyin, it's not like you don't know what kind of culture your second uncle has. I don't understand German. Gu Kawu said, I don't understand German either. German is a relatively small language, and I've never thought of learning it. Charlotte felt that something was wrong. There was clearly someone translating for Shintu Yi in time, and he could understand Conrad's words, but he said he didn't know. If it was something unpleasant, it would be excusable for him to refuse to translate. But Conrad just said a very normal sentence. So why didn't he translate it? Conrad smiled and said in stiff Chinese, I said, mud is really beautiful. Shinta Tianyin showed a slight smile at the corner of her mouth, but her eyes moved to Charlotte. Does she know that I'm Devon? Such a thought flashed through Charlotte's mind. It was easy for him to expose Conrad's lies. He only needed to translate Conrad's original words, but after thinking about it, he didn't do so. Shinta Tianyin said, Second uncle, you hired an electrical engineer from Germany without discussing it with me. Shintu Yi said, Tianyin, you're so busy, and I can't bear to see you working so hard, so I took the initiative to ask Mr. Conrad to help. I'm also doing this for our Wanxiang group. You won't blame me, right? Shinta Tianyin said, No, but next time, you must tell me first. This sentence was dignified. Shintu Yi smiled awkwardly. I will. At this time, Gu Qian said, Sister Tianyin, Uncle Yi has already hired an electrical engineer from Germany. The problems you encountered will definitely be solved. I don't think it's necessary to hire any domestic experts, right? Although he didn't mention names, Charlotte knew that Gu Qian's so-called domestic experts refer to him. From the moment he arrived until now, Gu Qian didn't let go of any opportunity to mock him. Shinta Tianyin didn't say anything, but Gu Qian's words attracted Shinta Yi's attention. He glanced at Charlotte, and his face suddenly became gloomy. Are you also here to help us solve our problems? Charlotte said, I don't know what problems you encountered, but I've already promised Miss Shinta that I will give you a suggestion after understanding it. Shintu Yi sneered. You're so young, what expert? Charlotte frowned slightly. Does this have anything to do with age? Shintu Yi said aggressively. Now the domestic manufacturing industry is sluggish, and the academic community is also fraudulent. The entire environment is very impetuous. Some brats who have just graduated from university dare to pretend to be experts. Aren't they afraid of making a fool of themselves? Graduated from university? Gu Qian giggled. Uncle E. Mr. Xia graduated from high school and is self-taught. He is much better than those college students. High school students? Shintu E suddenly laughed. Tianyin, why would you hire high school students to solve your problems? Charlotte stood up and said, Miss Shintu, I'm sorry. It seems that I can't give you any advice. Thank you for inviting me over, but I think it's more comfortable for me to sit in my original seat. Shintu Tianyin said, You sit. Then she pointed at Shintu Yi. You go out. Shintu Yi's smile suddenly froze on his face. The siblings, Gu Kawu and Gu Qian, also revealed looks of surprise. Shintu Tianyin actually asked her uncle to leave, not giving him any face at all. Not only the Gu siblings couldn't believe such a thing, but even Shintu Yi himself couldn't believe it. Tianyin, Shintu Yi came to his senses, and his flushed face was a little embarrassed. Shintu Tianyin said lightly, Do you want me to say it a second time? Go out. Shintu Yi suddenly stood up, gave Charlotte a hateful look, and then turned to leave. Hold the line. Conrad also got up and left. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. He wanted to leave, but Shintu Tianyin had even driven her uncle away in order to keep him. How could he not appreciate such a big face? He glanced at Shintu Tianyin, then braced himself and sat down. However, he really wanted to kick Gu Qian in the face. Distinguished guests, on behalf of the Haizhu Municipal Party Committee and the municipal government, I would like to express my gratitude for your presence. After the banquet, we will enter the venue for a discussion. At that time, please speak freely and give suggestions for the revitalization of the real economy of Haizhu City. Huho's voice sounded in the hall. The banquet began. Charlotte had no appetite at all. Shintu Tianyin said, The first time we met was at Dongfang Heavy Industry. I heard from the engineer of Dongfang Heavy Industry that your German is very good and that you can understand the manuals of very professional German equipment. But why didn't you tell me what that German said before? Xia Lei said awkwardly, I do understand German, but at that time, that German said something irrelevant. If I were to expose him, it wouldn't be good, would it? Then can you tell me now? His exact words were, Your niece doesn't seem happy. Charlotte translated Conrad's words. Shintu Tianyin said lightly, This is indeed an unimportant sentence, but he later used a lie to cover it up. How interesting. Miss Shintu, may I be so bold as to ask if your relationship with your second uncle is good? Shintu Tianyin looked at Charlotte curiously. Why do you ask? Charlotte hesitated for a moment, but he still decided to tell him what was bothering him. I saw your second uncle wearing a miniature receiver in his ear, and someone was translating Conrad's words for him. He knew what Conrad said, but he said he didn't understand German. I think something is wrong. Are you sure? I'm sure. I'm not surprised that he did that. Shintu Tianyin said, Do you know why I was angry at him today? Charlotte shook his head. Actually, he felt it was extremely strange at that time. He felt that he was an outsider to Shintu Tianyin in the end, whereas Shintu Yi was her second uncle. Under those circumstances, how could she let him stay and let Shintu Yi leave? However, it was not appropriate for him to ask such a question. Shintu Tianyin fell silent for a moment before saying, In our Shintu family clan, he is the person who wants to replace me the most. When we first met, didn't you discover a female assassin? I suspect that she's related to my second uncle. Unfortunately, I have never found any evidence. Charlotte said, You knew that he wanted to kill you, so why did you keep him by your side? There are so many people in your Shintu family, yet you tolerate his nonsense? Shintu Tianyin smiled bitterly. Our situation is very complicated. My grandfather's lineage only consists of my father and my second uncle. My father suffered a stroke 3 years ago and has been in a vegetative state ever since. My grandparents are more biased towards my second uncle. My second uncle's son, Shintu Tianfeng, is the only son of my grandfather's lineage. He is seen as the person who will carry on the family line, so my grandparents love him even more. What can I do to him in such a situation? Every time I want to touch him, my grandparents will cry and make a fuss. They will even threaten me with death. What can I do? What about your uncles and brothers? Do they not care? Them? They only have money in their eyes. It's funny to say that our Shinta family clan has dozens of people, but I can only trust one person, Uncle Fu. Shinta Tianin's mouth had a hint of bitterness. What about your mother? My situation is actually the same as yours. My mother passed away when I was still young. My father never remarried. My father sent me to England to study. It was only 3 years ago, when my father suffered a stroke, that I came back to take over the Wanxiang Corporation. Since then, my second uncle's family has been against me on the surface, wishing that I was dead. Charlotte said, "Your father suffered a stroke, so your family is the only one left. If you were to die, all the businesses would belong to your second uncle's family. Of course, he does not wish for you to live. However, even if your second uncle wishes for you to die in his dreams, he would not be stupid enough to go to Dongfeng Heavy Industries to plant a bomb to assassinate you, right? If that female assassin succeeds, the police will easily suspect him." Shinta Tianin said, "I have also thought of this problem, but I still do not understand it to this day." If Shinta Tianin could not understand it, Charlotte was even more confused. This was the first time he had a heart-to-heart talk with Shinta Tianin, but the content of the conversation was all negative. There was an aura of conspiracy everywhere. He could also feel the bitterness and loneliness in Shinta Tianin's heart. The two of them fell into silence. The atmosphere in the car was a bit depressing. Fu Chuanfu continued to drive the car forward. A few minutes later, Charlotte suddenly found that Fu Chuanfu was not going to send him home, but was driving in the direction of the sea. "Miss Shinta, what are you doing?" Charlotte asked. "Where are you taking me?" "What?" Shinta Tianin's mouth showed a smile. "Are you afraid that I will harm you?" This smile was also charming, and there was a trace of ordinary femininity in her body. Charlotte had never seen her make a joke, so he did not know how to talk to her for a moment. "Let's go to General Island." Shinta Tianin said, "Our Wanxiang Group's wind power project is on that island. I'm too lazy to ask you out tomorrow. You and I will stay on the island tonight. Are you okay?" Charlotte smiled bitterly. "You have arranged everything. What else can happen to me? Uncle Fu, drive faster. Ming Mei is waiting for us at the dock. She is impatient. Don't let her wait too long." Shinta Tianin said to Fu Chuanfu. Fu Chuanfu responded and stepped on the accelerator. The Rolls-Royce Phantom rushed forward. Charlotte took out his mobile phone and wanted to send a text message to Liang Xiao. But Shinta Tianin said, "Don't." Charlotte was a little surprised. "Why?" "I don't want others to know that you are with me, and I don't want others to know where I am." Charlotte put away his mobile phone. "Are you worried that your whereabouts will be exposed and others will take advantage of you?" Shinta Tianin did not speak, but nodded gently. Charlotte sighed. "You really live a tiring life." Sitting on tens of billions of yuan, the female CEO of the famous Wanxiang Group, many people envied her. But who could see the bitterness behind this limitless glory? Her own second uncle was always calculating her assets, and Gukawu was also thinking about her. She was a woman. Not only did she have to tangle with these people who were like wolves and tigers, but she also had to face her father who was paralyzed in bed. She was actually not happy at all. More than 10 minutes later, Fu Chuanfu drove the car to a fishing village near the sea. Then the three of them got out of the car. A bodyguard who had been waiting for them in the fishing village drove away Shinta Tianin's car. The three of them walked to the beach. From a distance of at least 50 meters, Xia Lei saw a small yacht and a woman standing on the deck of the yacht. The woman was about the same age as Shinta Tianin. She was wearing a woman's suit. She had short hair and a sexy figure. She gave people a sense of valiance. Charlotte thought to himself, she is probably the Ming Mei that Shinta Tianin mentioned. The three of them walked to the yacht. Shinta Tianin said, "Ming Mei is Uncle Fu's daughter. She just retired from the Special Forces this year. I asked her to follow me." He didn't expect her to be a retired Special Forces soldier. No wonder she had such a strong, heroic spirit. Fu Chuanfu finally said, "Mr. Xia, my daughter has a bad temper. You should be more tolerant when you get along. If she does anything wrong, tell me, and I'll beat her." Charlotte smiled and said, "Uncle Fu, don't joke with me. I'm not that stingy." Before the three of them reached the yacht, Fu Mingmei jumped off the yacht and asked Sister Tianyin, "Who is he?" "Charlotte, my friend," Shinta Tianyin said. "Call him Mr. Xia." The corners of Fu Mingmei's mouth curled up slightly, but she still greeted Charlotte with honorifics. "Hello, Mr. Xia," Charlotte said with a smile. "You're welcome, Miss Mingmei." Fu Mingmei looked at Charlotte carefully, her eyes full of vigilance. Shinta Tianyin said, "Get on the boat. Let's go." A few minutes later, Fu Mingmei drove the yacht to a small island not far from the coastline. Chapter 165. The island was in the shape of a steamed bun. It was not big, and there were many wind turbines on the beach. They were like Dutch windmills, constantly rotating in the wind, adding to the beautiful scenery of the island. There was only a raised hill on the island, and the wind farm of the Wanxiang Group was located below the hill. After entering the factory, Charlotte saw the parts of the wind turbines piled up in the open-air freight yard. There were so many of them that they almost occupied the entire freight yard. There's so many parts here. I think Dongfang Heavy Industries has done a good job. Why do you say that they can't fulfill the order on time? The parts of the wind turbines piled up in the freight yard made Charlotte a little confused. He had an intuition that this time, Shinta Tianyin did not bring him to this island just to ask him for a suggestion. Or perhaps it was not a suggestion at all. Shinta Tianyin did not answer Charlotte's question. She said, "Let's go. I have a place on this island. We will stay there tonight." Charlotte frowned slightly. "What's going on? Please tell me." Shinta Tianyin smiled faintly. "Don't worry." Her smile was as light as a daisy, as if it was a universal answer that could solve all questions. With her smile, Charlotte did not ask further. At this time, Fu Mingmei drove a sightseeing car and said, "Get in." Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte got in the car, and Fu Mingmei drove the small sightseeing car to the steamed bun-shaped hill. The road up the hill was relatively steep. Although it was paved with asphalt, the speed of the sightseeing car was not fast. Charlotte sat in the car and looked at the forest on both sides of the road, but he was still thinking about the matter in front of him. This Shinta Tianyin, what does she want to do? At the top of the steamed bun-shaped hill stood a very large villa. It was located at the highest point of the entire island, and it had the best lighting and sightseeing view. It was also styled in a typical Gothic style, looking like a castle from the Middle Ages. Some of the forest around the villa had been cut down, and the empty space had been turned into a garden. There were lush green grass, all kinds of flowers and plants, and a large open-air swimming pool. The environment was comfortable and elegant. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, "It's good to be rich. This villa is probably worth tens of millions, right? If only I had a villa like this, I could marry a beautiful wife and raise a son and a daughter. That would be great." When the idea of marrying a wife appeared in his mind, Liang Xiao's appearance suddenly appeared in his mind. The thought shocked him. Why would I think of her? We've never been in a relationship, so how can we get married and have children? He quietly glanced at Shinta Tianyin beside him. In the past, he had imagined more than once that he and Shinta Tianyin were together, and even in his dreams, he had rolled in bed with Shinta Tianyin several times. But now, this fantasy was very faint, and it was not as strong as before. Is this also because of Liang Xiao? Love is really a very strange thing. Fu Mingmei parked the car in the parking space in front of the villa, and then jumped out of the car. "Sister Tianyin, I'll go prepare a room for Mr. Xia." Shinta Tianyin nodded and then led Charlotte into the villa. The interior of the villa was also decorated in a typical Gothic style, classical and grand. However, a lot of black and gray elements were used in the house, giving people a mysterious and cold feeling. This style made Charlotte think of Shinta Tianyin's character, which was also mysterious and cold. Shinta Tianyin took Charlotte up to the second floor and came to his study. Fu Chuanfu served 2 cups of tea. In this villa, apart from Shinta Tianyin, Charlotte only saw Fu Chuanfu and Fu Mingmei. There was no one else. It was not difficult to see that this place should be Shinta Tianyin's secret palace. Charlotte sat on the sofa and took a sip of tea, then said, "Now can you tell me what it is?" He looked at Shinta Tianyin and said, You're not going to tell me that it's a problem with the wind power project, are you? Shinta Tianyin said. It's really not a problem with the wind power project. I'm sorry that I lied to you, but that was to deceive people. This time I asked you to come here to ask you for help. What do you want me to do? It's to help me. Charlotte was stunned for a moment before he smiled. I don't even know what to do. How can I help you? Shinta Tianyin said slowly. I have been in charge of the Wanxiang Corporation for 3 years. My grandparents see me as an enemy. I understand their intentions. They want my second brother's son, Shinta Tianfeng, to take over the Wanxiang Corporation. That way, the Wanxiang Corporation that my father built would belong to the Shinta family. As for me, I am just a woman. I will marry sooner or later. In the future, my child will not have the surname Shintu. After I get married, the Wanxiang Corporation will fall into the hands of an outsider. The Shinta family is the same. Although they did not express their thoughts, they are actually worried about this matter. They are afraid that I will get married, and they are even more afraid that I will have an heir to inherit the Wanxiang Corporation, and that heir will not have the surname Shintu. Your grandparents are too conservative. Aren't granddaughters and grandchildren the same? Besides, the Wanxiang Corporation was built by your father, so what has it got to do with them? For them to have such a good life today, isn't it all because of your father's grace? Your father is paralyzed, and they do not know how to repay his kindness. Instead, they're thinking of ways to scheme against you. They want to take away what belongs to you. They're too much. Charlotte also felt that it was unfair for Shinta Tianyin. Shinta Tianyin smiled bitterly. Now you understand. Although my Shinta family has dozens of people, I can only trust Uncle Fu and Ming Mei, and their surnames are Chun. Charlotte said, Thank you for talking to me about this. This means that you treat me as a friend and trust me. However, I still don't understand. What do you want me to help you with? I have already said it very clearly. You are so smart. Can't you guess? Shinta Tianyin stared straight at Charlotte. Charlotte looked speechlessly at Shinta Tianyin. How could he guess such a thing? Can't guess. Shinta Tianyin felt slightly disappointed. Charlotte shook his head decisively. However, he felt that it was not so boring to be alone with Shinta Tianyin. She also had an interesting factor. Shinta Tianyin sighed. All right, I will say it directly. Go out with me. Charlotte responded. You agree? Shinta Tianyin was a little surprised. Xiaolei suddenly came back to his senses. Wait, what did you just say? Go out with me. Charlotte heard it clearly and understood what Shinta Tianyin wanted his help with. So, his jaw dropped to the ground. He didn't expect that, after going around in a big circle, Shinta Tianyin actually asked him for this kind of help. Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte quietly. There are too few people I can trust, but when I first met you, I knew you were a very good person. I can trust you. Do you remember the first time we met? If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have been blown up. If someone else did such a thing, they would definitely ask me how to repay him, but you didn't want anything. It was Uncle Fu who forced you to accept those machines. Do you know what Uncle Fu said about you when he came back? He said that you were a silly boy. Charlotte smiled bitterly. I was really poor at that time, but I don't want to be charity. Besides, I just happened to see it and didn't do anything. Forget it. Let's not mention the past anymore. Can you help me with this? Shinta Tianyin pulled the topic back. Miss Shintu, how can I help you with such a favor? Charlotte felt a headache coming on. If you agree, and then we go out with each other, wouldn't that help me? It's a very simple matter. Charlotte, Shinta Tianyin said, my grandparents are nearly 80 years old, and their bodies aren't very good. They might not wake up one day. Shinta Yi's family is very anxious because once my grandparents die, the Shinta family clan's cohesiveness will be weak. At that time, no one will be able to control me. If they want to take over the Wanxiang Corporation, it will be even more difficult. So, I just need to add a catalyst, and they will be even more anxious, revealing their true colors. I'm the catalyst? Yes, you are my catalyst. Shinta Tianyin's mouth revealed a smile. Pretend to go out with me. I will bring you home to visit my grandparents and my father. We will even attend some events that will be exposed by the media. Together, we will create the illusion that we are in love and will soon get married. At that time, those monsters that are lurking in the dark will jump out. And then, Catch them all in one fell swoop. Shinta Tianin's voice was cold. Charlotte's heart was in a mess. Why do you think I will help you with such a favor? You will. My intuition is very accurate. Charlotte smiled bitterly. All right, I can promise you. However, I want to know why you chose me. Shinta Tianin smiled lightly. Even if it's a pretense, I have to find someone who is worthy of me, right? Do you think I'm that kind of woman who doesn't have good taste? Charlotte could not find the words, but he felt very comfortable listening to it. All right, it's getting late. Go and rest, Shinta Tianin said. Good night. Charlotte got up and left. Right? Our relationship will begin tomorrow morning. Charlotte said, There's no one else here. Who are we acting for? Shinta Tianin said, We have to get used to each other. Also, I got Uncle Fu to investigate you. You have not even had a girlfriend. Do you think you have a talent to act to fool so many cunning people? Charlotte. Chapter 166. Charlotte followed Fu Mingmei into a room. The bed in the room was also Gothic. It had a carved ceiling and looked very exquisite. Fu Mingmei had already changed into a new bedsheet and quilt. It was white and very clean. If you need anything, you can tell me, Fu Mingmei said. Thank you, but I don't need anything at the moment. Charlotte was about to close the door, but Fu Mingmei had no intention of leaving. My dad said that you're very powerful. Fu Mingmei looked at Charlotte with a provocative look in her eyes. Charlotte smiled. What are you trying to do? Fu Mingmei suddenly threw a punch at Charlotte's face. She didn't hesitate at all. Although he didn't have the time to predict it, Charlotte was no longer the Charlotte of the past. He had practiced Xing Chuan for a long time, and his skills and reflexes weren't something a retired Special Forces soldier could compare to. When Fu Mingmei's fist was about to hit his face, he quickly tilted his neck and dodged her attack. Fu Mingmei's reaction was also very fast. Her fist that missed instantly opened up into a palm and hooked onto Charlotte's neck. She pulled with all her might, wanting to pull Charlotte in front of her. At the same time, she raised her leg and kneed Charlotte's lower abdomen. This was a little too much. Charlotte bent over and elbowed Fu Mingmei's knee. Then, he tilted his shoulder and blocked Fu Mingmei's attack. At the same time, he hit Fu Mingmei's chest with his shoulder. Fu Mingmei's chest wasn't big, but it had a lot of flesh. When it hit, it had a very obvious shock absorption. Fu Mingmei took 2 steps back. She held her chest that was hurting and stared at Charlotte with a red face. You, Charlotte smiled. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Fu Mingmei turned around and left. It wasn't me who started it. Getting angry because you can't win is too petty, Charlotte muttered to himself. He closed the door. After taking a shower, Charlotte lay on the bed, thinking about things. The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't fall asleep. He was willing to help Shinta Tianin, even if he didn't say anything. However, pretending to be in a relationship with her gave him a headache. It was foreseeable that he would have to face the ostracism of the Shinta family, especially from Shinta Tianin's grandparents. Those 2 elders would definitely see him as an enemy who wanted to use their child to plot against the Wanxiang Corporation. There was also Shinto Yi and Shinta Tianfeng. How could they allow a man to walk into Shinta Tianin's life? However, the Shinta family was only one aspect. What gave Charlotte a bigger headache was Gu Kawu. Gu Kawu was pursuing Shinta Tianin, and Shinta Tianin suddenly announced that they were dating. How could Gu Kawu not create obstacles for him? How could he not find some trouble for him? I already had a deep grudge with the Gu family. Now that I'm dating Shinta Tianin, wouldn't Gu Kawu and Gu Qin hate me to death? After Huang Yihu's death, the Gu family didn't find trouble with me. That was because I didn't touch upon their interests. However, this time, I've touched upon their greatest interests. This matter is troublesome. Thinking of this, Charlotte's head was already swollen. If he were to date Shinta Tianin, from a certain point of view, he would indeed be snatching away the Gu family's biggest cake. The reason was simple. If Gu Kawu managed to woo Shinta Tianin, marry her, and have a child, then he would be able to obtain the Wanxiang Corporation without spending a single cent. If something happened to Shinta Tianin, and something unexpected happened, then it would be even more perfect for Gu Kawu. However, such a good thing had yet to happen. Would the Goof family be willing to let it go? That night, Charlotte didn't sleep for more than 5 hours. The next morning, Fu Mingmei knocked on Charlotte's door. With a smile on her face, she politely said, "Brother-in-law, breakfast is ready." Charlotte immediately froze. He was sure that he heard her call him brother-in-law, but he couldn't believe it. "Brother-in-law, I said breakfast is ready. Why are you in a daze?" This time, Fu Mingmei said the word brother-in-law even louder. Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses. What did you call me?" "Brother-in-law. Do you want me to call you Mr. Xiao? That's too distant." Fu Mingmei smiled and said, "Sister Tianyin has already told me about you too. I grew up with her, and I've long regarded her as my sister. You're with her, and you're about to get married. Of course, I have to call you brother-in-law." "Who told you that we're going to get married?" Charlotte suddenly felt that his whole body was not good. Fu Mingmei raised her willowy eyebrows and looked very playful. "Of course, my sister told me. She said that if nothing unexpected happens, you'll have a wedding on the Mid-Autumn Festival next year." "Charlotte." Breakfast was made by Fu Chuan Fu. It was porridge, side dishes, and eggs. It was hard to imagine that this was the breakfast of a queen-level woman like Shinta Tianyin. When Charlotte followed Fu Mingmei to the dining room, Shinta Tianyin was already sitting at the table, quiet and beautiful. "Miss Shintu, good morning." Charlotte greeted and then walked to the opposite side of Shinta Tianyin. However, Shinta Tianyin stopped Charlotte. "Wait, let's do it again." Charlotte asked curiously, "Do what again?" Shinta Tianyin's beautiful brows furrowed slightly. "Have you ever seen a man passionately in love call his lover miss?" Charlotte, if this was a test, Charlotte's score would definitely be 0. If Shinta Tianyin's grandparents were also here, this show would be exposed as soon as it started. "Brother-in-law, what are you still doing?" Fu Mingmei said, "You're the stupidest man I've ever seen." "Mingmei." Shinta Tianyin glared at Fu Mingmei. "All right, I won't say anything." But Fu Mingmei added, "You only know how to protect him." It could be seen that because of their good relationship, Fu Mingmei was actually not afraid of Shinta Tianyin. Charlotte shrugged and retreated to the position where he greeted Shinta Tianyin just now. He cleared his throat. "Tianyin, good morning." Shinta Tianyin nodded. "You can put on a smile and give people a feeling that you're happy to see me." "Damn." Charlotte secretly cried trouble in his heart, but he squeezed out a smile on his face. "Tianyin, good morning." "Well, that's the feeling," Shinta Tianyin said. "Now try to change the way you address me." "Change the way you address me?" Charlotte was surprised. "Change what?" "For example, dear, Nin, baby, etc. What do you think is appropriate?" Shinta Tianyin's expression looked very natural as he said these cheesy terms. Charlotte's forehead was already sweating. 1 minute later, "Dear, good morning." Charlotte forced a smile. "Did you sleep well last night?" Shinta Tianyin smiled. "There is no problem with the first sentence, but there is no need to say the second sentence. We are already people who are going to get married. We sleep together. Don't you know that I slept well?" Charlotte smiled bitterly and quickly walked around to sit opposite Shinta Tianyin. He was afraid that Shinta Tianyin would find out what was wrong with him and make him do it again. After sitting down, Charlotte found that there were only 2 bowls of porridge and 2 pairs of chopsticks on the table. There was no breakfast for Fu Mingmei and Fu Chuanfu at all. Fu Chuanfu had already left. He couldn't help but look at Fu Mingmei, but he saw that Fu Mingmei was looking at him with a faint smile on her face. "Let's eat." Shinta Tianyin picked up the chopsticks and then put a green leaf into Charlotte's bowl. "Thank you." Xiaolei buried his head in the porridge and swallowed the green leaf in one gulp. "When we eat together in the future, you don't have to say thank you when I put food in your bowl. Just smile at me," Shinta Tianyin said. "Also, you have to put some food in my bowl and coax me to eat more vegetables." Charlotte was smart this time. He picked up 2 green leaves and put them in Shinta Tianyin's bowl. Then he said in a very gentle voice, "Dear, eat more vegetables. You are so busy. Eating more vegetables can supplement vitamins. The most important thing is your health." Shinta Tianyin suddenly smiled. "Yes, that's it. You are a fast learner." Charlotte rolled his eyes at her. "Do I still need to learn?" Coaxing women is a man's nature. It's an innate skill. Fu Mingmei, who was standing next to him, suddenly interjected, "So, brother-in-law, how many girlfriends have you had?" Xiaolei almost spat out the mouthful of porridge he just drank. "Mingmei, watch your words." Shinta Tianyin stared at Fu Mingmei. Fu Mingmei snorted, but she didn't expose Charlotte's past. In fact, in a man's world, the more girlfriends a man has, the more cocky he is. But in a woman's world, they always want to be their boyfriend's first boyfriend. Not promiscuous, not fickle. This is the universal standard for all women to choose a boyfriend. After breakfast, Shinda Tianyin said, "Lei, I know that doing this is very unfair to you, and will even bring you a lot of trouble, but I really have no other way, so I will inconvenience you." Then, she got up and bowed to Charlotte to express her gratitude. Charlotte hurriedly went around the table to help her up and said with some embarrassment, "When I needed help the most, you helped me. Now that you are in trouble, of course I will help you. I'm just worried that I won't do well and will be seen through. You too, you help me. I help you. It's making me dizzy," Fu Mingmei said. At this time, Fu Chuanfu appeared at the door of the dining room. With a black face said, "Mingmei, go prepare the car." "Oh," Fu Mingmei responded, and then went to prepare the car. Fu Chuanfu apologized. "Miss, I didn't teach Mingmei well. I will teach her well later." Shinta Tianyin said, "It's okay. Fu Bo, you go do your thing." Fu Chuanfu also left. "Later, we will go to the power plant site to have a look, and our relationship will start from this island." Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte, her eyes full of gratitude and expectation. Charlotte smiled. "I will try my best. Well, sometimes if I don't react, remember to give me a hint." Shinta Tianyin said, "I have already thought about this. When you see me cross my hands, you come and hold my hand." "Yes." Charlotte nodded. This hint was very simple. Shinta Tianyin said, "But when you see me purse my lips with my tongue, you have to kiss me." "Ah." Charlotte felt as if someone had stepped on his foot. "If I say, 'Dear, I am sleepy,' you have to say, 'Dear, let's go back to the room to rest.' If I say I can't walk, you have to carry me into the room." Charlotte's forehead was covered with black lines. Is the Wanxiang Group actually a movie company? Chapter 167. A yacht stopped at the pier. Shintu, Yi, and Conrad walked down from the yacht. Following that, a young man in a suit walked down from the yacht. He was tall and handsome. In terms of looks and temperament, he was definitely an outstanding elite among men. Tian Feng, that woman is also on the island. You will definitely see her in a while. When you see her, be polite to her. Don't mention yesterday's matter." Shun Tu Yi said. This young man was Shun Tu Yi's son, Shun Tu Tianfeng. Shun Tu Tianfeng said, "Dad, she let you leave on such an occasion, but let an outsider stay. This clearly shows that she is not giving you face. You are her uncle, which is equivalent to half a father to her. How can she treat you like this? You even spoke up for her." Shin Tu Yi said, "Why are you so rash? Don't bother with trifles when doing big things. What's a little mistreatment? In the spring and autumn period, King Gojian of Yu endured hardships in order to avenge his father, eventually defeating the Wu Kingdom. Isn't our current situation the same? You know very well what our goal is. Compared to our goal, I can take any mistreatment. You have to take it too." Shin Tu Tianfeng nodded. "What are you talking about?" Conrad asked in German. Shin Tu Tianfeng said in German, "Nothing much. Family matters. Mr. Conrad, I am now in charge of this wind power project. You must help me solve the problem." Conrad said, "No problem. This is my specialty." Shin Tu Tianfeng's face revealed a smile. He was actually the German translator between Shun Tu Yi and Conrad at yesterday's gala. After Ren Wenxiang was chased out of the Wanxiang Corporation, he had obtained the support of the Shun Tu family clan, especially the support of his grandfather, Shun Tu Weiye. He had become the person in charge of this project. His goal was very simple. He wanted to do a good job with this project. He wanted to show the Shun Tu family clan that he had the ability. He wanted to give the Shun Tu family clan a signal that he was better than Shinda Tianyin. He was the person who should be in charge of the Wanxiang Corporation. The three of them walked from the pier to the power plant. The construction site of the wind power plant was busy. Some workers were assembling the parts of the wind turbine, and a few engineers were discussing how to lay the submarine cable. Due to the special geographical location of this island, there was good wind all year round. It was an ideal place to build a wind power plant, but it also had its drawbacks. If one wanted to send the electricity from the wind power plant, they had to pull a cable from the bottom of the sea. Shinta Tianfeng had invited Conrad from Germany to solve this problem. Pulling a cable on the seabed might seem like a simple matter, but it was actually very difficult to pull it off. Because of the currents and the topography of the seabed, a few experts in the country had already retreated in the face of difficulties. Shinta Tianfeng had invited Conrad to fight a beautiful battle, establish his image, and gain recognition. The three of them entered the power plant and happened to see Shinta Tianin and Charlotte coming down from the mountaintop villa on a sightseeing bus, as well as Fu Mingmei, who was driving. Shintu, he lowered his voice. That kid is called Charlotte, the CEO of Lima Manufacturing Company. He started from scratch and is a very powerful person. I heard that this person killed Huang Yihu. Lima Manufacturing Company? Shinta Tianfeng frowned slightly. How come I've never heard of it? Shin Tu-yi said, it's a small private company. It's normal for you not to have heard of it. I only heard about it last night. A small private company wants to get involved? What a joke. Shinta Tianfeng sneered in disdain. Shin Tu-yi said, just think of a way to chase him away later. If Tianin doesn't agree, you can use the old man to pressure her. The old man will definitely support you in this matter. All right, I understand. Let's go. Shinta Tianfeng said. At this moment, the sightseeing bus stopped. Shinta Tianin and Charlotte got off the bus. The two of them also saw Shintu E and Shinta Tianfeng, as well as the electrical engineer from Germany, Conrad. When he saw the three of them, Shinta Tianin didn't say a word and immediately grabbed Charlotte's arm. Xia Lei's arm suddenly touched the softest part of her body, as well as the mysterious and enchanting fragrance that emanated from her body. Xia Lei suddenly became a little nervous. Shinta Tianin seemed to feel the tension coming from Charlotte's body. She lowered her voice and said, remember what we rehearsed before, and my secret signal. Don't be nervous, it's no problem. Charlotte took a light breath. Don't worry. It was inevitable that he would be a little nervous the first time, but he would be fine after getting used to it. On this side, they were holding hands intimately. On the other side, Shintu Yi and Shintu Tianfeng's eyes were wide open, unable to believe the scene in front of them. That kid. Shintu Yi was stunned for a long time before he said, why is Tianin holding that kid's hand? Shinta Tianfeng also said, Tianin is such a proud woman. In my impression, even if another man touched her hand, she would be very unhappy. Why would she hold that kid's hand? Unless the two of them were in love. This was what Shinta Tianfeng did not say. That's impossible. Shintu Yi's face darkened. Yesterday, she even said that she wanted to ask this Xia brat to help solve the problem of the wind power project. I didn't see her being so intimate with this Xia brat yesterday. How could she be so intimate with him in just one night? Humph. Shinta Tianfeng coldly snorted. Dad, she chased you away for that brat. This is proof. She lied to us. She was actually dating this brat a long time ago. Damn it. Is that brat worthy? Shintu Yi's face darkened even more. Shintu Tianfeng's gaze locked on Charlotte, his eyes filled with hatred and disgust. The thing that Shinta Yi and Shinta Tianfeng, father and son, did not want to see Shinta Tianin fall in love the most. The father and son had always felt that Shinta Tianin would not be difficult to deal with, because she was only a woman in the end. However, if she fell in love, and her boyfriend was a very powerful person, it would definitely affect their plans. No matter what, Shinta Tianfeng and Shinta Yi did not want to see such a thing happen. However, this kind of thing still happened. At this moment, right in front of their eyes, Shinta Tianin intimately held onto Charlotte's hand and walked over. Her face was brimming with a blissful smile, and she looked very happy. The distance between them shortened, and the three Shinta family members and an outsider brat faced each other. Shinta Tianyin smiled and said, "Second uncle, brother Tianfeng, you're here." Tianyin. Shinta Yi went straight to the point. "What are you guys doing?" Shinta Tianfeng forced out a smile. "Tianyin, you guys can't be real, right? What's real or fake?" Shinta Tianyin had the blissful look of a woman in love. Her voice was very gentle. Let me introduce you. This is my second uncle's son, my brother, Shinta Tianfeng. Amen. You've already met my second uncle yesterday, so I won't introduce him to you." Charlotte had a smile on his face. "Brother Tianfeng, hello." Then he extended his hand towards Shinta Tianfeng. A look of disgust flashed across Shinta Tianfeng's eyes. He hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still shook hands with Charlotte. "Good morning, second uncle." Charlotte extended his hand towards Shinta Yi. "What did you call me?" Shinta Yi's face was gloomy. "Who's your second uncle?" Charlotte awkwardly retracted his hand and did not say anything. However, Shinta Tianyin frowned. "Second uncle, do you have a prejudice against Charlotte? You were targeting him at the party yesterday. What's going on?" Shinta Yi then said, "It's not that I'm targeting him on purpose. I'm doing it for your own good. There are a lot of swindlers nowadays, especially those who specialize in tricking women. They dress well and look good, but they are secretly full of evil tricks. Such people do not have any sincerity. They are here for your money." Although he did not mention Charlotte's name, even a deaf person could tell that Shinta Yi was mocking Charlotte for being a toad that wanted to eat swan meat. Shinta Tianyin said, "Charlotte is not the kind of person you think he is. Do you still remember the time I was assassinated by a bomb? The person who saved me at that time was Charlotte. If it wasn't for him, I would have died a long time ago. Actually, from that time on, we started dating. It's just that we didn't make it public." When these words came out, Shinta Yi and Shinta Tianfeng couldn't help but look at each other. The reaction of the father and son fell into Charlotte's eyes. He quietly awakened the ability of his left eye, and his left eye twitched slightly, silently locking onto Shinta Tianfeng and Shinta Yi. The X-ray vision was like a scalpel in surgery. In the blink of an eye, it cut open Shinta Tianfeng and Shinta Yi's bodies. He saw their hearts, which were beating abnormally. If the female killer who planted the bomb had nothing to do with them, would they be so nervous? Of course, a sudden increase in heartbeat could not prove the truth, but Charlotte had a feeling that the assassination was most likely related to this father and son pair. Shinta Tianyin's explanation was very reasonable. The hero saved the beauty, and the beauty turned around to repay him. There were countless stories like this in human history, and many of them were even made into movies and shown on the big screen. Shinta Tianyin, had fallen in love with the man who had saved her life. Furthermore, this man was so good-looking and capable. What was so unreasonable about that? However, Shinta Tianyin was still adding fuel to the fire. "Second uncle, what's wrong with Charlotte calling you second uncle? We've already discussed it. We're getting married during the spring festival. Aren't you happy that he's calling you second uncle in advance?" "Ah, you're getting married during the spring festival?" Shinta Yi's expression was very interesting, as if a rhinoceros had just jumped over his foot. Shinta Tianfeng's reaction was also very strong. The way he looked at Charlotte was like a knife. Actually, not only were Shinta Yi and Shinta Tianfeng surprised, even Charlotte was surprised. Previously, he said that he and Shinta Tianyin would be getting married during the Mid-Autumn Festival next year, but now, Shinta Tianyin said that they would be getting married during the Spring Festival. This was more than half a year in advance. Wasn't this too fast? However, he believed in Shinta Tianyin's judgment. She definitely had her reasons for saying that, and she had thought it through. Therefore, even though he was surprised in his heart, he maintained a happy smile on his face and did not say anything. If you say you're getting married during the Spring Festival, then you're getting married during the Spring Festival. It's not like it's real. Congratulations. Shinta Tianfeng squeezed out an extremely forced smile. "Thank you, brother Tianfeng." Shinta Tianyin then looked at Charlotte with deep emotions in his eyes. "Darling, let's go somewhere else to take a look." Charlotte pursed his lips and smiled. "All right, my dear." The two of them walked away arm in arm. Shintu Yi and Shinta Tianfeng, however, were still standing there in a daze. They looked coldly at the backs of Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte. He had to admit that Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte being together was truly a match made in heaven. The woman was an outstanding beauty, and the man was handsome. They were both good-looking people. However, the more compatible they were, the more resentful Shintu Yi and Shinta Tianfeng became. Chapter 168. The following period of time belonged to Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte's show. Shinta Tianyin held on to Charlotte's arm as the smile on her face never stopped. She brought Charlotte to places with a lot of people, deliberately showing off their affection for those people. Charlotte was also very cooperative. When he passed by a flower bed, he stopped and picked a golden chrysanthemum to insert into Shinta Tianyin's hair. "You are really beautiful," Charlotte praised from the bottom of his heart. Shinta Tianyin's beauty had an otherworldly feeling to it. His praise for her came from the bottom of his heart, without any deliberate flattery. Really, a smile suffused on Shinta Tianyin's face again. His two dimples seemed to contain the best wine in the world. It could intoxicate people even without giving them a drink. Charlotte smiled. He felt that there was no need to praise her, as it was unnecessary. Shinta Tianyin also took out his cell phone and handed it to a middle-level executive of the power plant. He said to him, "Take a picture of us." "Yes, Chairman." The middle-level executive was eager to have the opportunity to curry favor with Shinta Tianyin. He took out his cell phone and took a picture of Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte. Shinta Tianyin was nestled in Charlotte's embrace, while Charlotte was gently hugging her waist. This was a standard pose of a couple taking a selfie. It was full of love. On the other side, Shinta Tianfeng's eyes were burning with anger as he said, "That slut. She has disgraced the Shintu family. How can she not care about her image? She represents the face of our Shintu family clan. She is hugging that kid in public as if she can't wait to go to bed with him. She's really King cheap. From the looks of it, she and that kid are really about to get married." Shinta Yi's face was filled with trouble and worry. Shinta Tianfeng said, "What should we do about this? That brat will come out of nowhere and ruin our plans. If we don't do anything, once he marries that bitch and has a child, Shinta Tianyin will make her child his heir. Then, even if she dies, we won't get anything. Instead, we'll let that brat have it easy." "Keep your voice down," Shinta Yi said nervously. "There are some things that can only be discussed at home, not outside." Shinta Yi coldly snorted. "Dad, indecisiveness will only lead to chaos. You are too cautious, too conservative. Sometimes, when it's time to give it your all, you must give it your all. What do you want? I'll invite that kid to our house as a guest. Since he's the future son-in-law of the Shinta clan, he should at least meet his grandparents, seniors, and brothers of the same clan, right? Even if we don't do anything, those people will think of a way to chase this brat away." Shinta Tianfeng sneered. "At that time, just the saliva of those people will be enough to drown him." Shinta Yi thought for a moment. "That's a good idea. Go ahead. I'll get your mother to prepare later." Shinta Tianfeng walked towards Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte, who were showing off their love. On the other side, Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte had taken more than a dozen photos, and all of their loving poses had been displayed. "Chairman, please keep your phone well." The middle management of the power plant held the phone in both hands and brought it to Shinta Tianyin, looking very respectful. You can go down and do what you need to do," Shinta Tianyin said indifferently. Her gaze shifted to Shinta Tianfeng, who was walking over, and then she pursed her lips with her tongue. This was a secret signal for him to kiss her. Charlotte knew this secret signal. When Shinta Tianyin sent out this secret signal, he had actually seen Shinta Tianfeng walking over. He was very clear about Shinta Tianyin's motives, but he hesitated. Holding hands and hugging each other's waist was nothing, but kissing was another matter. Was he really going to kiss? Shinta Tianyin pursed his lips with his tongue again. "I'm going all out, so be it if you want to kiss me." Charlotte reached out and wrapped his arms around Shinta Tianyin's waist, pulled her into his embrace, and then lowered his head to kiss her. Their lips instantly stuck together, like the north and south poles of a magnet. Their mouths attracted each other without leaving a single gap. Although it was an act, Shinatianin's small mouth let out a moan. In that instant, there was a very strong reaction. This was her first kiss, and also Charlotte's first kiss. Shinatianin thought that this would be a very simple matter. But when Charlotte really kissed her lips, that miraculous chemical reaction shook all the nerves in her body, and also caused ripples to surface in her heart. Charlotte's feelings were also very strong. He had kissed Shinatianin in his dreams, but that was a dream after all, not real. Right now, Shinatianin's fragrant lips were right between his lips. That softness, that moist, that tender and alluring feeling, and that enchanting fragrance that was emitted from between her lips and teeth, all of these factors made him intoxicated. He could still feel her delicate body trembling in his arms. Her chest was pressing against his chest, soft and elastic, in her small waist. Even though there was a layer of clothes between them, he could still feel the smoothness of her skin. These factors stimulated his primitive desire, and he felt that he could not control himself anymore. The guy hiding in the shadows was quickly waking up as if he wanted to break free and take a bite out of her. Shinatianin quickly felt the changes in Charlotte's body, and a hint of redness appeared on her jade-like dimples. Shinatianin walked to the side of Shinatianin and Charlotte, but the two of them were still immersed in the sweet kiss. It was as if there were only the two of them in the entire world, so how could they care about his existence? A hint of hatred flashed past Shinatianin's eyes, but a trace of a smile appeared on his face. He coughed to him. Only then did Shinatianin and Charlotte separate. Shinatianin's face was red, and she said with slight embarrassment, "Brother Tianfeng, what's the matter? You two really love each other." Shinatianin probed, "But why haven't I heard you mention it before? You should have told us about such a big thing. It's too sudden." Shinatianin said, "Of course I have my considerations. I'm not a casual woman. The man I want to bring home will definitely be the man I want to marry. If we're not suitable, I won't bring him home. I've been with Lei for half a year. I love him, and he loves me. Our temperaments and personalities are very compatible. I've decided to marry him, so I announced our relationship to the public. That's why I didn't tell you guys before. I was looking for a suitable time to bring Lei home and officially announce our relationship, as well as the date of our marriage." Shinatianin said with a fake smile, "So that's how it is. You're still the same. No matter what you do, you have your own considerations. I was just about to invite Charlotte to our house as a guest. It seems like we have the same thoughts, so let's set it for tomorrow. Bring Charlotte home tomorrow. I think our whole family will like Charlotte." "Is that so? Then let's do it tomorrow," Shinatianin said indifferently. Shinatianin said with a smile, "Then it's settled." He looked at Charlotte with a very amiable look. "Charlotte, you have to perform well tomorrow. The elders in the family are very picky. Tianin is their darling. Ordinary men won't be able to snatch her away." Charlotte smiled. "Brother Tianfeng, don't worry. I'll perform well." At this moment, Shintai, who was a little further away, suddenly shouted, "Tianin, please come over. Mr. Conrad wants to talk to you about the submarine cable." Shintai frowned. "Do I have to personally ask about such a small matter?" Shintai said, "Tianin, it's not that I want to tell you that love is important, but don't forget about work. That Conrad was actually specially invited back from Germany. He's the world's best wind power expert. Just give me some face and talk to Mr. Conrad." "All right, I'll go take a look." Shinatianin suddenly kissed Charlotte on the cheek before walking towards Shintai and Conrad. This display of affection made Charlotte feel like it was real. Shintai stared at Charlotte and revealed a mocking smile. "Charlotte, I heard that you opened a company called Lima Manufacturing Company, right?" Charlotte nodded. "Yes, it's called Lima Manufacturing Company. Do you think it's on the same level as our Shinta family clan's Wanxiang Corporation?" Shintai tone was filled with contempt. His meaning was obvious. "You think you're worthy of marrying Shintai." Charlotte pretended not to understand the meaning behind his words and said with a smile, "Of course it's not on the same level, but it's a company I founded myself. I'm very satisfied. After all, many people don't have their own companies." His words also had a hidden meaning. I started from scratch. Although the company is small, it's mine. The Wanxiang Corporation is big, but is it yours? The two men were at loggerheads, but they had a tacit understanding of their positions. He well said, "Indeed, he's not a simple person. Let's go take a look." Shinta Tianfeng laughed calmly. "All right, brother Tianfeng." Charlotte also called him affectionately. At this moment, Charlotte's cell phone rang. The call was from Liang Xiao. "Brother Tianfeng, I'm sorry. I need to take this call." Charlotte walked to the side with his cell phone in hand. However, Shinta Tianfeng did not even want to say another word to Charlotte as he left alone. Charlotte swiped the answer button. "Senior sister, it's already past work time. Why aren't you coming to work yet?" Liang Xiao's voice was filled with a probing tone. "Who were you with last night? Are you still under the covers?" Charlotte laughed bitterly. "Senior sister, can you not make fun of me? I ran into something and can't come back to the company today. Since there's nothing going on, you can help me." "What happened to you?" Liang Xiao asked with concern. "It's not convenient to say it over the phone. I'll tell you when I get back," Charlotte said. "Then I'll wait for you at home. Come back early. Remember to buy some food. The fridge is empty. And I'll cook something delicious for you and Master tonight," Charlotte said with a smile. "Also, what else? Forget it, it's nothing. I'll wait for you. Come back early." Liang Xiao hung up the phone. Charlotte couldn't help but smile. When he was with Shinta Tianyin, he had a mysterious and excited feeling, but when he was with Liang Xiao, he had a relaxed and happy feeling. Just now, a phone call from Liang Xiao that was filled with concern made him happy. She seemed to want to say something to me, but why didn't she say it? She probably wanted me to buy something for her, but then she felt embarrassed and didn't say anything. Seriously, I can buy it for her even if it's sanitary napkins. Charlotte thought like this in his heart. He had helped Jiang Rui buy that kind of thing before, so he could be considered an experienced man. He did not feel that this was anything to be embarrassed about. Then he thought of Jiang Rui. Was that lively woman currently walking on a field? Charlotte walked towards Shinta Tianyin, and these thoughts were also thrown to the back of his mind. He was feeling very good now. He even felt that he could compete with veteran actors like Liang Chaowei and Chen Daoming. Chapter 169. When Charlotte walked over, Conrad was speaking in German, and the person who translated was Shinta Tianfeng. Mr. Conrad said that our wind power project not only has to solve the problem of the submarine cable, but also has problems with our electrical engineering. It needs to be improved, otherwise the power plant will become unstable after operation. Shinta Tianfeng looked very serious and professional. This is a big investment for our Wanxiang group, and the higher-ups are also optimistic about this environmental protection project. We have to solve these problems. Otherwise, it will be a joke if we only find out that there are problems when the project is completed and the production is about to start. Shinta Tianyin said, "I don't understand these things. Ask him where the problem is and how to change it." Shinta Tianfeng said to Conrad in German, "You know what to say? Just say it." Charlotte, who had just walked over, had a thought. There was something fishy about this matter. Conrad nodded, then spread out the blueprint in his hand. He pointed at it and said, "This needs to be improved. Use our German equipment. And here, there's also a problem here. It needs to be improved. It's not that I'm looking down on China's electrical engineers, but their design level is really not good." Shinta Tianfeng translated Conrad's words to Shinta Tianyin. Shinta Tianyin's eyebrows furrowed even more. Why are there so many problems? I thought there was only a problem with the submarine cable. Why is there also a problem with the electrical engineering? We also need to buy equipment from Germany. Ask him how much it will cost to solve these problems. Shinta Tianfeng said to Conrad in German. He asked you how much it will cost to solve these problems. Conrad said, "I roughly calculated that it will cost about 30 million euros. Shinta Tianfeng then said to Shinta Tianyin, he said that the approximate budget is 30 million euros. So much? 30 million euros is already 200 million yuan. We have already invested more than 1 billion yuan. This is too much beyond my budget, Shinta Tianyin said. Shinta Tianfeng said, Tianyin, these hidden dangers must be solved. Otherwise, there will be big problems. Spending money is not a big deal. The success of this wind power project is a big deal. It will bring stable income to our Wanxiang group. Wind power generation was indeed a profitable investment because wind power didn't need to be bought at all, and electricity was the future development direction of the energy industry. Charlotte glanced at the drawing in Conrad's hand. He found that there were traces of changes to the third drawing, and there were some German annotations. He said aloud, Mr. Conrad modified this drawing, right? Darling, you came at the right time. Take a look. Shinta Tianyin said with a smile. Shen Tuyi looked at Charlotte, not concealing his disdain at all. A private processing company knows the electrical engineering of wind power generation systems? Tianyin, it's not that I don't believe in Charlotte, but it's impossible. I think Mr. Charlotte should think about other things. Let's forget about such a serious matter. Don't waste our time. Shinta Tianyin immediately frowned, looking unhappy. However, she didn't flare up. Shinta Tianfeng also said sarcastically, Charlotte, do you want me to translate your words to Mr. Conrad? Don't need to translate. Charlotte said with a smile, in Germany, England, Spain, and France, oh right, in Japan and Russia, I don't need to translate. Was knowing German very cool? Shinta Tianfeng was stunned on the spot. It was as if he had a fly in his mouth. Charlotte said in German, Mr. Conrad, please show me your drawing. Conrad glanced at Shinta Tianfeng, as if asking for his opinion. Shinta Tianfeng nodded without batting an eyelid. Only then was he willing to hand the drawing in his hand to Charlotte. Charlotte took the drawing that Conrad had modified and looked at it carefully. During his time in Germany, he had desperately studied electrical engineering knowledge. He had seen and remembered thousands of electrical engineering drawings with his left eye, and he had memorized millions of words of electrical engineering knowledge. When he returned to China, in order to build Joseph's smart machine tool, he had combined theory with practice and learned a lot of electrical engineering knowledge. Therefore, even though he hadn't gone through a professional exam, he was already a qualified electrical engineer. Moreover, with the ability of his left eye, ordinary electrical engineers couldn't compare to him. Charlotte first looked at the original drawing designed by the electrical engineers in China, and then looked at the parts that Conrad had circled and modified. He had never come into contact with electrical engineering in the field of wind power generation, but the principles were the same, and the relevant calculations were also the same. Therefore, he only needed to use his knowledge of electrical engineering to determine where the domestic engineers had gone wrong, and whether Conrad's improvements were necessary. Charlotte looked very seriously, and his brain was constantly receiving the huge amount of electrical engineering knowledge and drawings that his left eye was transmitting to him. Humph! Shintui coldly snorted. I say, Charlotte, can you do it or not? Our time is very precious. If you can't do it, just say it. We won't laugh at you. Shinta Tianfeng also said, Charlotte, can you understand it? Hee. You have to be clear. This isn't processing screws and nuts. This is electrical engineering. Shinta Tianyin also looked at Charlotte with some worry. She was worried that Charlotte would make a fool of himself. At this time, Charlotte handed the drawing to Shinta Tianyin and said lightly, My dear, this German electrical engineer is deceiving you. He's deceiving me? Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte in surprise. However, the ones who were the most shocked were Shintu Yi and Shinta Tianfeng. Shinta Tianfeng said angrily, Charlotte, speak clearly. Charlotte didn't take Shinta Tianfeng's anger to heart at all. He pointed at the parts of the drawing that Conrad had changed and said lightly, China's electrical engineers simplify things, but this German engineer complicates things. Here and here, there's no need to change anything. Right now, our country's level of wind power generation is already very advanced. There's no need to pursue German technology and equipment. There's no need to spend your 200 million. There won't be any problems? Shinta Tianyin was still a little uncertain. Charlotte said, There won't be any problems. There's no problem with the China engineer's drawings. Kid, Shintui couldn't help but become angry. He pointed at Charlotte's nose. Who do you think you are? You're just a high school student who knows a little bit about electrical engineering, and you're making irresponsible remarks here. Are you better than the German engineer? What a disgrace. However, Charlotte didn't get angry. He said calmly, I'm just speaking the truth. There's no need to spend money, so why should we spend it? Even if we spend money, it's still the Wanxiang Group's money. Is it your money? Or do you think that the Wanxiang Group will be yours sooner or later? The more Shintui spoke, the uglier it was. Enough. Shinta Tianyin was also angry. Second uncle, no matter how much money the Wanxiang Group has, they can't spend it like this. You guys keep recommending this German engineer, and the moment he comes, you give me a proposal to spend 200 million. What do you mean by that? Shintui couldn't say anything. Although Shinta Tianyin didn't say it clearly, the meaning was clear. You guys want a commission. Shinta Tianfeng followed with a smile. Tianyin, we're doing this for the good of the company. We don't understand electrical engineering. How about this? I'll ask Conrad to change it again and change the proposal. What do you think? Change the proposal? Shinta Tianyin sneered. Charlotte has already said it very clearly. There's no problem with the domestic electrical engineer's proposal. I don't want to see another engineer cheating money. Let him go, and don't ever appear in front of me again. Shinta Tianfeng was anxious. Tianyin, even if there's no problem with the electrical engineering, there's still the problem with the submarine cable that needs to be solved. Conrad is an expert. We can't let him go. However, Shinta Tianyin's attitude was very firm. I've already said it very clearly. I won't believe a liar. As for the submarine cable, I still believe in the domestic engineers. I've already decided that I'll ask a team of domestic experts to help us solve the problem. Shinta Tianfeng and Shintui looked at each other. Both father and son's eyes were filled with hatred. To the father and son, Charlotte was simply a dung beetle that messed around. Wherever Charlotte appeared, that place would be ruined. When Charlotte saw this, he laughed bitterly in his heart. If it wasn't for Shinta Tianyin, he wouldn't have offended Shinta Yi and Shinta Tianfeng in his entire life, nor would he have become their enemy. But now, it seemed that he had two more enemies. What are you talking about? Conrad's Chinese was very bad. When others spoke slowly, he could barely understand a few words, but when others spoke quickly, it was as if he was listening to a heavenly book. Shinta Tianfeng said angrily, I told you to draw up a plan. What plan did you draw up? He pointed at Charlotte and said angrily, This person, he said that your plan is completely unnecessary, and you even asked for 20 million euros. Shinta Tianfeng spoke in German, and this time, Conrad understood. He looked at Charlotte in shock, speechless. The reason was very simple. It was because he knew very well that his changes were not necessary at all. However, Shinta Yi and Shinta Tianfeng wanted a plan to get a commission, so he could only bite the bullet and concoct it. However, he did not expect that it would be exposed by the Chinese kid in front of him in an instant. Shinta Tianfeng said, Go back to your Germany. Shinta Tianyin also held Charlotte's hand. Let's go as well. I'll take you to the back of the island. The scenery there's very beautiful. Charlotte smiled, all right. How about, let's go swimming. Shinta Tianyin lightly hit Charlotte and said flirtatiously, You're so bad. The flirting between the two was like pouring salt on Shinta Tianfeng and Shinta Yi's wounds. The father and son watched as Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte left intimately, their eyes almost spitting fire. Conrad suddenly said, What's that kid's name? Charlotte. Shinta Tianfeng looked at Conrad. Why are you asking this? Conrad shrugged his shoulders. It's nothing, he's so young yet so powerful. I think he's a very outstanding person. Furthermore, he's a very powerful electrical engineer. Shinta Tianfeng coldly snorted. He ruined our business, yet you're still praising him here. You're really something. You've failed, and our cooperation has ended. You can leave now. Then, my commission. You made me lose face, and you still have the face to ask for a commission. Shinta Tianfeng suddenly roared at Conrad. Scram. Chapter 170. After acting for a day, Charlotte felt that it was more tiring than working for a day. However, he also forgot what he promised Liang Xiao. When he left General Island in the afternoon, he went to the supermarket to buy a lot of ingredients and then cooked a sumptuous dinner at the Liang family. After he finished cooking, Liang Xiao went home. "Where's Master?" Charlotte asked. "He's not coming back today. He's spending the night at the boxing gym. He said that he has to prepare for the martial arts circle convention," Liang Xiao said, and then looked at the table full of delicious food on the table. "If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have cooked 2 dishes. There's so much food, the 2 of us can't finish it," Charlotte said. "If we can't finish it today, I'll eat it tomorrow." Liang Xiao giggled. "Oh yeah, you said that you're a Shinatianin. What are you guys doing?" "Let's eat first, then I'll tell you," Charlotte said. Liang Xiao didn't ask further. After eating, she took the initiative to clean up the dishes. Charlotte went to the study to read Liang Zhengchuan's collection of medical books. After a while, Liang Xiao also came to the study and looked at Charlotte with a smile. "Can you tell me now? She and I were not." Charlotte wanted to explain, but he didn't know what to say when the words reached his mouth. What he wanted to explain was very simple. It was that Shinta Tianin asked him to help and pretend to be dating her. However, he felt a little guilty in front of Liang Xiao because of this. He wasn't a blockhead. In the past, he couldn't feel Liang Xiao's feelings for him because he didn't have experience. However, after such a long time, no matter how slow his reaction was, he could feel it. He also knew that Liang Xiao liked him. But it was precisely because he knew this that he found it hard to say it. "What's the matter?" Liang Xiao curled her lips, acting so mysterious. "Could it be that she wants to invest in our company?" Charlotte shook his head. "No, it's..." Liang Xiao walked behind Charlotte and suddenly strangled Charlotte's neck with her arm. She pretended to be fierce and said, "Are you going to tell me or not? If you don't speak, I'll strangle you to death." She spoke fiercely and looked frightening, but the strength she exerted in her hands was small. On the contrary, her pair of soft hands were firmly pressed against the back of Charlotte's head, like a strange clamp that wanted to crush Charlotte's head. Hearing this, Charlotte became nervous. He hurriedly said, "Let me go and I'll tell you." Liang Xiao only loosened her grip a little, but did not let go of him. "Hurry up and say it." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "You have to promise me before that you won't hit me or scold me. I'm going to faint. What's going on? Why are you being so mysterious?" Liang Xiao had lost her patience. "Shinta Tianin asked me to date her." Charlotte made a long story short. "Huh?" Liang Xiao was stunned on the spot. Her heart felt as if it had been pierced by a needle, and it was aching dully. Her eyes also stealthily became misty. Charlotte then explained, "But it's fake." Then, he told the whole story to Liang Xiao. After listening to Charlotte, Liang Xiao's heart relaxed, but she did not say anything else and suddenly strangled Charlotte's neck. This time, she really used all her strength. Charlotte's breathing suddenly became tense. "Are you going to strangle me to death?" Liang Xiao said angrily. "She asked you to do such a favor, and you agreed? She's really shameless. She actually thought of such an idea." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "She's really in trouble. Her grandparents and the Shinta family don't want her to take over the Wanxiang Corporation. They want to kick her out. Shintu Yi and Shinta Tianfeng, one is her uncle, and the other is her cousin. But these 2 want to kill her. The female assassin in Dongfang Heavy Industry is most likely related to these 2. She's actually only famous on the surface. Her real situation is very pitiful. So you sympathize with her and become her boyfriend?" Liang Xiao's tone was sour, but she let go of Charlotte's neck. "She helped me when I needed help the most. Now that she's in trouble, how can I just stand by and watch? What kind of favor is not good enough for you to help? I'm ignoring you." Liang Xiao turned and left. Charlotte felt uneasy. He got up and held her hand. He smiled and said, "Senior sister, don't be angry. It's not real." Liang Xiao turned around and said in a soft voice, "Even if it's real, what does it have to do with me?" Charlotte couldn't find the words to say. "That's right. Whether it's real or fake, It's his freedom. What does it have to do with Liang Xiao? Are you trying to explain it to me? Liang Xiao seemed to have reacted. She understood the deeper meaning behind it. Her eyes immediately went straight. She looked at Charlotte's eyes, as if she wanted to see through his heart. Charlotte was also very curious. Why was he so worried about Liang Xiao's feelings? He wanted to explain it to her and even apologize to her. This kind of situation would only happen between couples. You fool, you should have said it. Say it. Liang Xiao's cheeks were already red. She looked very nervous, agitated, excited, expectant, and anxious. Charlotte's tongue was like a rope that had been tied. Liang Xiao suddenly burrowed into Charlotte's arms. She hooked her arms around his neck and pressed her cherry lips on Charlotte's lips. She had completely lost her patience. It was harder to get a rookie like Charlotte to say those 3 words than to climb Mount Everest barefoot. Instead of wasting time like this, it was better to take the initiative. He was like the most natural ingredient. Only when he was in her stomach would it be considered as a true delicacy. Within a day, Charlotte had already kissed 2 women. However, kissing with Tianyin was fake. Other than feeling very excited and having a very strong physiological reaction, he could not feel anything on the spiritual level. But now, when he kissed with Liang Xiao, he felt that her heart was so soft and full of love. He was soon softened by her and immersed in it. He was like a boat anchored in a calm harbor. Liang Xiao's initiative seemed to have awakened another Charlotte. He was not satisfied with a shallow kiss. His tongue took the initiative to pry open Liang Xiao's lips, invaded, and tangled with her tongue. The moist tongue, the chaotic sounds, and each other's taste, all of these stimulated the nerves of the 2 people like stimulants, and the 2 people gradually lost control. The 2 people were like 2 entangled gyroscopes spinning. The chair next to the desk was knocked over, and the books on the desk also fell to the ground. Liang Jingchuan's ink was also knocked down. The thick black ink flowed down the desk to the floor. The books on the bookshelf were also knocked down and fell to the ground. In this chaos, the clothes on Charlotte's body flew away, and the clothes on Liang Xiao's body also disappeared. The 2 of them were primitive. One was strong, and his body contained the power of a volcano. The other was gentle and beautiful, and her body contained the water that could nourish everything. The 2 people finally stopped on the sofa in the study. They looked at each other. The 2 of them only had eyes for each other and nothing else. Xiao, give it to me. Charlotte's voice was trembling. He was very excited. Liang Xiao bit her lips. Her face was red, and her eyes were also filled with happiness and excitement. Charlotte's request made her nervous and scared, but she nodded. Her beauty at that moment was breathtaking. Charlotte could not wait to press on. Xiao, where's dinner? Liang Jingchuan's voice suddenly came from the living room. Liang Jingchuan's voice was like a cold current, and it instantly froze the 2 people on the sofa who had already done 1/3 of their sex. Xiao? Liang Jingchuan's voice was a little louder. Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses. He immediately climbed up from Liang Xiao's body. Liang Xiao also hurriedly picked up her clothes to wear. The 2 of them did not say a word during the whole process, but their cooperation was quite tacit. Seeing Liang Xiao pick up the black lace and quickly put it on her beautiful legs, Charlotte suddenly wanted to hit his head against the wall. Didn't they say they were going to spend the night at the boxing club? Why did Master come back? And at this time, the 2 of them put on their clothes very quickly. But after putting on their clothes, they suddenly found that the study was in a mess, as if it had been searched. What should we do? Liang Xiao was so anxious that she stamped her feet, but her voice was very soft. Only she and Charlotte could hear it. Charlotte spread out his hands. I don't know either. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. It's all your fault. My dad is very smart. He will see through it. What should we do? Liang Xiao glared at Charlotte angrily and flirtatiously. Charlotte suddenly had an idea. I got it. You thought of a way. Charlotte moved closer to Liang Xiao's ear and whispered, Xiao? Liang Zhongchun called again. Dad, we're in the study. Liang Xiao braced herself and said, Lazy is here too. Liang Zhongshan walked to the study and reached out to open the door. As soon as the door opened, inside the study, Liang Xiao suddenly punched Charlotte's lower abdomen. Charlotte reached out a block and punched back. In the blink of an eye, the two were entangled in a fierce fight. Liang Zhongshan stared dumbfoundedly at Charlotte, whose face was flushed red, and Liang Xiao, whose face was red. There were books and ink all over the floor. He was stunned for a long time before he said, "You two, are you serious?" Liang Xiao and Xia each sent out a kick, and the two long legs collided with each other before the two of them separated. Charlotte wiped his sweat and said with a smile, "Master, you're back. You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll go heat it up for you. I made a lot of your favorite dishes today." After saying that, he lowered his head and slipped away. "Wait!" Liang Zhengchun called out to Charlotte, who wanted to slip away. Charlotte suddenly became nervous. He braced himself and said, "Master, is there anything else? What are you doing?" Liang Zhengchun seemed to smell a trace of conspiracy. Liang Xiao hurriedly said, "Dad, Lei and I are learning from each other. Didn't we just knock over a bottle of ink? I'll buy a new bottle for you tomorrow." "Really?" Liang Zhengchun suspiciously looked at Charlotte and then looked at Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao said, "Why would I lie to you? Do we look like we're quarreling?" Liang Zhengchun shook his head and said no. Liang Xiao said, "Then it's fine. We're very good, and we won't quarrel. I just think that Lei has neglected to practice during this time, so I want to help him practice." Liang Zhengchun nodded and said, "You should practice more, but next time you're not allowed to fight in my study." Charlotte and Liang Zhengchun nodded together. "Master, I'll go heat up the dishes for you." Charlotte went to the study again. "Wait." Liang Zhengchun stopped Charlotte again. Charlotte was about to cry and said, "Master, do you have any other orders?" Liang Zhengchun pointed at Charlotte's crotch and said, "Your zipper is open." Charlotte, seeing Charlotte's open zipper, Liang Xiao seemed to think of something. She was so shy that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Chapter 171. "Dad, let's go." Liang Xiao said to Liang Zhengchun, who was getting off the car in front of the boxing gym, her face brimming with a happy smile. "Be careful on the road," Liang Zhengchun warned. "Got it, Dad." Liang Xiao waved to Liang Zhengchun. Liang Zhengchun walked into the boxing gym. Liang Xiao suddenly hit Charlotte and said coquettishly, "It's all your fault. I didn't sleep last night." "I didn't sleep either." Charlotte said, "Did you want to do something bad?" Liang Xiao mischievously said. Charlotte's face turned red. What happened in the study last night, although it wasn't 100%, it was at least 30%. The heavens had pity on him. He was a virgin who had never touched a woman. It was his first time doing that kind of thing, and he actually only did a third of it. How could that feel good? You really did want to do something bad. You're so bad. Liang Xiao hit Charlotte again. She didn't hurt, but Charlotte pretended to cry out in pain. "Does it hurt?" Liang Xiao became nervous again. Charlotte laughed. "You can't even bear to hit me, so how could I hurt? You lied to me. You lied to me. You bullied me last night, and now you're bullying me again." Liang Xiao's two pink fists shot out, raining down on Charlotte's body. But with these kind of fists, even if they were to be punched 1,000 times, it wouldn't hurt a single hair on Charlotte's body. Charlotte grabbed Liang Xiao's hand and quietly looked at her. He suddenly realized that she was very beautiful. Her face, her eyes, her small mouth, everything about her was the most beautiful. "Beauty is in the eye of the beholder." This sentence was the most appropriate to describe his current feelings. Liang Xiao also inexplicably quietened down. She also quietly looked at Charlotte, her two big black eyes unblinking. She also felt that he was very handsome. His face, his eyes, and his lips were all sexy. Before yesterday, she and he were still in a relationship of senior sister and junior brother. However, when they lost control in the study, the two of them met each other with sincerity and almost had a good time together. The layer of window paper between the two of them was pierced. The two of them could no longer return to the simple relationship of senior sister and junior brother. It was replaced by a new relationship lovers. Yes, lover. In her heart, Charlotte was her lover, a good man who was worth entrusting her life to. Just like that, they quietly stared at each other. Suddenly, the two of them leaned toward each other and kissed each other's lips. Then, the two of them fell into the trap again and used their tongues. It was as if the other party's tongue was the most wonderful dessert in the world, and it was the most comfortable and satisfying to lick it. Deep dee dee. The car behind them suddenly honked its horn. The two of them hurriedly separated. Liang Xiao hurriedly started the car and drove forward. The driver behind poked his head out of the window and scolded, "Damn, are you going to have car sex so early in the morning? Go to a hotel and do it on the road. Are you kidding me?" In the red BMW M6, Liang Xiao blushed and stuck out her tongue. "The guy behind us must have car rage." "Yes, he has car rage. We won't argue with him." Charlotte's face was also red, and his crotch was also high. Liang Xiao glanced at it and giggled. "You know, last night, Charlotte said nervously, "I'm sorry, I was too impulsive last night. I shouldn't have done that." "Now you know you're wrong?" Liang Xiao smiled happily. "Well, seeing that you were so pitiful, I forgive you." Charlotte couldn't help but look at his pants again. He suddenly felt that it was indeed quite pitiful. Liang Xiao glanced at Charlotte's crotch again. Her cheeks were flushed, and her voice was also low. "We are both in our 20s. It's normal to be impulsive. Well, I actually left the door open for you last night. If you feel uncomfortable, why didn't you come over?" Charlotte. She was such a gentle and considerate woman. She even thought of this, but he foolishly used his hands to solve the problem. Hearing her say such considerate words at this time, he was so regretful that he wanted to hit his head against the windshield. Liang Xiao stretched out her hand and held Charlotte's hand. She said gently, "Lazy, when are you going to tell my dad about us? I want to be with you openly. I don't want to be with you secretly." Charlotte's heart softened. "When I help Shinta Tianyin solve her problem, we'll tell Master, okay? Are you still going to be Shinta Tianyin's boyfriend?" Liang Xiao's cherry lips suddenly curled up, and she looked unhappy. No woman liked their boyfriend dating other women, even if it was fake. Women in love were the most jealous, and Liang Xiao was no exception. Her heart was full of Charlotte, and there was no room for other men. Of course, she didn't want Charlotte to have another woman in his heart. "Xiao, she and I are fake. It's not real. I'm just helping her." Charlotte could feel her jealousy and knew that this kind of thing was unfair to her. But he still had to go because Shinta Tianyin needed his help, and he had promised her. Liang Xiao was silent for a long time before saying, "All right, but you're not allowed to hold hands, kiss, or go to bed." "Charlotte, how long are you going to pretend for?" Liang Xiao asked again. Charlotte said, "I don't know. Probably until Shinta Yi and Shinta Tianfeng can't help but make a move. I think she wants to get evidence and get rid of the family that's against her. After hearing what you said, I feel that she's actually quite pitiful. Her grandparents and her relatives from the same clan are all scheming against her. She's quite lonely." Liang Xiao's heart was moved. Charlotte held her hand up and very gently kissed it. He said with a smile, "Our Xiao is very righteous. You must be the best gift that the heavens have given me. Just you and I are enough. Sweet talk, I don't want to listen to it." Liang Xiao said this, but her face was full of smiles. This was only her first day in a relationship with Charlotte, but she already felt so good. Her heart was as sweet as drinking honey. Charlotte said seriously, "I promise to help Shinta Tianyin because of my own considerations. Networking is very important in business. If we can build a good relationship with the Wanxiang Corporation, our company will benefit no matter what. And I support you. Go." Charlotte laughed. "Our Xiao is still the best." Liang Xiao suddenly stared at Charlotte. "You're not allowed to hold hands, kiss, or go to bed. I'll check your body every day when you come back. If I smell her scent on your body, I'll make you kneel on a washboard." Xiaolei's forehead was already filled with a few more black lines. Does she have a washboard at home? As they chatted and laughed, the red BMW M6 arrived at the Lima Manufacturing Company. A Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked on the side of the road in front of the factory. Shinta Tianyin was already waiting for Charlotte. Liang Xiao drove her BMW M6 directly to the front of the Rolls-Royce Phantom, then opened the door and got out. At this time, Fu Mingmei walked out of the driver's seat and greeted Charlotte with a smile. "Brother-in-law, good morning." Charlotte subconsciously glanced at Liang Xiao, not daring to respond. Liang Xiao suddenly took Charlotte's hand and came to the side of the Rolls-Royce Phantom with him. Fu Mingmei looked at Liang Xiao, who was holding Charlotte's arm, in surprise. She obviously didn't understand what was going on. At this time, the rear window of the Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled down, and Shinta Tianyin, whose face was so beautiful that it was out of this world, poked her head out of the window. She looked at Liang Xiao, who was holding Charlotte's arm, and her eyes flickered slightly, but she didn't show it on her face. She just greeted her lightly. "Hello, Miss Liang." "Hello, Miss Shintu." Liang Xiao also greeted her. That was all the two women said, and they didn't talk anymore. "You look at me, I look at you." It was very strange, and there seemed to be a little smoke in the air. Charlotte was stuck in the middle, and he had a headache. He wanted to end this awkward meeting, but he didn't know what to say. Shinta Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. "Well, get in the car. We're going to pick out some gifts for Grandpa and Grandma. It's your first time going to our house, so it's not good to go empty-handed." Charlotte was about to agree to get in the car, but Liang Xiao stood in front of him. "Your tie is a little crooked. Let me fix it for you." Liang Xiao gently fixed Charlotte's tie. Actually, Charlotte's tie wasn't crooked at all. Fu Mingmei frowned immediately. She seemed like she was about to flare up, but Shinta Tianyin stopped her with a look. Liang Xiao fixed Charlotte's tie and suddenly kissed Charlotte's lips. "Go. Remember what I told you." Charlotte smiled bitterly and nodded. He knew what she was referring to. No holding hands, no kissing, and definitely not going to bed. However, other than the last one, he had violated both the holding hands and kissing. Should he confess to her? Charlotte got in the car. Liang Xiao patted the car door again and said to Shinta Tianyin, "My lazy is in your hands. Take good care of him." "Our lazy." This was an obvious declaration of sovereignty. Strangely, after hearing Liang Xiao's words, Shinta Tianyin's face was still very calm. She nodded lightly. "Don't worry." Then she said, "Mingmei drive?" Fu Mingmei glared at Liang Xiao and drove away from Lima Manufacturing Company. Liang Xiao watched the Rolls-Royce Phantom drive away until she couldn't see it anymore. Then she said, "Will Charlotte be disgusted by what I did? But how can there be such a thing? He's obviously my boyfriend, but he wants to be her boyfriend, and he even can pick her up. Isn't this bullying my kindness?" In the Rolls-Royce Phantom. "Does Miss Liang know about it?" Shinta Tianyin said aloud. Charlotte said, "Well, there's some things that I have to tell her. But don't worry, I trust her. She won't tell anyone." Fu Mingmei interrupted and said, "She won't tell anyone? She kissed you in public. If it was seen by Shinta Tian phone or Shinta Yi, wouldn't it be exposed?" Mingmei. Shinta Tianyin's tone was somewhat displeased. Fu Mingmei shrugged. "Okay, I'll shut up. I'll drive." Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte. When did you start?" I don't remember." This question really stumped Charlotte. It officially started last night, and the location was also in his master Liang Zhengchuan's study. But that was the result of the incident. He really didn't know the cause and process of the incident. He didn't know when Liang Xiao got into his heart and hid it. Last night, he was provoked by her, and he suddenly exploded and lost control. "Let's go pick a gift." Shinta Tianyin changed the topic. Charlotte secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then there was silence in the car. No one knew what the atmosphere was. Chapter 172. The famous Shun Tu family clan was actually in a village called Yulin. It was surrounded by mountains and water, with green tiles and white walls. It was as tranquil as a painting. Before coming here, Charlotte could not believe that the Shun Tu family clan was in a village. In his imagination, Shinta Tianyin's home should be in the best area in the city. It would be either a villa or an entire floor. However, her home was in a village, and it only looked elegant. It was unbelievable. However, Shinta Tianyin's home was very big. It covered more than 10 acres, and just the main house had 3 entrances. There were also gardens in the front and back, as well as pavilions in the garden. It was a Suzhou garden-like style. Fu Mingmei stopped the car at the door, and Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte alighted. Shinta Tianyin led Charlotte inside as they chatted. Most of the people from the Shen-Tu family clan live here. My father is a very traditional person. He built the Wanxiang Corporation from scratch, so he bought the land and built this huge mansion, allowing all the people from the Shen-Tu family to move in. The Shen-Tu family clan members also work in the Wanxiang Corporation. My father does not like to hold meetings in the company's conference room, so he would sometimes gather the Shen-Tu family members in this mansion to discuss matters. Before my father's accident, this family was actually very harmonious and lively, but after my father's stroke, it changed. Shinta Tianyin said sadly. Charlotte said, "It's all about money. Your father single-handedly built the Wanxiang Corporation. When your father was healthy, your Shen-Tu family members followed your father's lead. However, once your father collapsed, they had other thoughts in their hearts. They thought that the Wanxiang Corporation was theirs. In the end, it's all about money." Shinta Tianyin sighed. "They are bullying me for not having a man in my family. If I had a man as powerful as you by my side, would they dare to bully me so openly?" Charlotte smiled and said, "What's so powerful about me? In just one night, Liang Xiao has become your boyfriend. Isn't that amazing?" Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Shin Tuyi and a woman came out of the central room to welcome them. The woman was in her early 50s. Her skin was well maintained. She was fair and plump, giving people the impression that she was rich. Shinta Tianyin whispered, "The woman beside my second uncle is his wife, Wang Fang. Although she was plump and broad, she was very narrow-minded and full of wicked ideas. My second uncle is very afraid of her and listens to everything she says." Charlotte responded softly, indicating that he had heard her. "Tianyin, why are you so late?" Shintui said with some dissatisfaction. The old man has been waiting impatiently. As soon as Shinta Tianyin came back, Shintui used the Shinta family's old man, Shinta Weiye, to pressure her. Before Shinta Tianyin could speak, Wang Fang, who was next to Shinta Yi, interrupted and said, "Our Tianyin's mind is probably on this gentleman, right? This gentleman, what's your name?" She must have known Charlotte's name, but she did it on purpose. She seemed to be using this method to express her attitude to Charlotte. "Who do you think you are, to dare to enter the Shintu family's door?" Charlotte's brows slightly wrinkled. He had already imagined that this visit would be very difficult, but he didn't expect that the Shinta couple's faces would be so clear on the battlefield. Wang Fang said again, "Tianyin, why isn't your boyfriend saying anything?" Shinta Tianyin lightly said, "Second aunt, what do you want to say? Is he mute?" Before the word mute could be said, Wang Fang smiled again. "This gentleman is really shy." Only then did Charlotte say, "My name is Charlotte. Hello, Annie." Although he wanted to kick her in the face, she was, after all, Shinta Tianyin's second aunt. He pretended to be Shinta Tianyin's boyfriend, so she was also his elder. It was the first time they met, so it was not good to fall out with her. Wang Fang carefully looked at Charlotte and said, "He really is a handsome guy, but unfortunately." Charlotte endured the anger in his heart and lightly said, "Unfortunately what?" Wang Fang laughed. "I heard that you were a high school student, right? I think it would be good if you were more educated. I don't mean anything else." Shinta Tianyin's face suddenly became gloomy, and he was about to explode at any time. Shinta Yi also said, "Wife, you are good at everything, but you can't control your mouth. If you don't know how to speak, then don't say a few words. You see, you have made Tianyin unhappy." Wang Fang said, "There's nothing wrong with me, but I need the approval of the old man. It can't be that anyone can enter our Shinta family's door, right? What is our family's Tianyin's identity? She is the chairman of our Wanxiang group. It is a big deal for her to find a partner. As her aunt, how can I not help her?" Charlotte could see that Shintu Yi and his wife only had one purpose, and that was to drive him away, so that Shinta Tianyin could remain single. This was the most beneficial for them. They didn't dare to go overboard in front of Shinatianin, but for an outsider like him, there were no taboos. He could do whatever he wanted. To be honest, Charlotte really wanted to turn around and leave because he felt disgusted when he saw Shintu Yi and Wang Fong. Not to mention that he would be meeting more people from the Shinta family later. However, when he saw Shinta Tianyin standing alone beside him, his heart softened. Since he was here, he would help her to the end. Charlotte smiled. Auntie, it's not like you were looking for a son-in-law. Why are you so picky? I am indeed only a high school student, but Tianyin likes high school students. I asked her once, and I said, why don't you find a university student? She told me that there are a lot of university students and PhD students in her company, but she took a fancy to me. This is called fate. Do you understand? Oh, you... Wang Fong didn't expect that Charlotte would dare to quarrel with her here. Her face immediately turned green with anger. Shinta Tianyin, on the other hand, burst into laughter. Darling, let's go. Take me to see your grandfather. Charlotte extended his hand again. Give me the gifts. I'll carry them. Shinta Tianyin responded and handed a big bag of gifts to Charlotte. When Charlotte carried the 2 big bags of gifts, she held on to Charlotte's arm, looking very affectionate. Then, the two ignored Shintu Yi and Wang Fong and bypassed them to enter the central room. Shintu Yi and Wang Fong looked at each other. Their faces were ugly to the extreme. This kid isn't someone who has recuperated. He's a thorn, Wang Fong said. Shintu Yi said in a low voice, this kid isn't simple. Even Huang Yihu was defeated by him. He's a powerful person. Wang Fong said hatefully, I don't care what kind of person he is. In short, I will definitely not allow such a person to enter our Shinta family. In a moment, we must get everyone to join forces to chase this kid away. He dares to talk to me like this the first time we meet. If that woman marries him, what will happen to us? We'll just wait for our tears to soak our rice. This Wang Fong's eyesight and intuition were still very powerful. Indeed, with Charlotte's ability and methods, as well as his personality, if Shinta Tianyin really married him, would he tolerate the Shinta family bullying his wife? He would crush them. There was no one in the central room. Shinta Tianyin led Charlotte through a side door and entered the inner courtyard. There was a large courtyard paved with limestone in the inner courtyard. A white-haired old man was sitting on a chair and basking in the sun. Beside him, a large group of people were standing there chatting. Shinta Tianfeng was also among them. Beside him stood a young woman in her 20s. The woman was very beautiful. She had a big belly and looked like she was about to give birth. Shinta Tianyin then said to Charlotte, the woman beside Shinta Tianfeng is called Tan Jingjing. She's his wife. She's 8 months pregnant, and it's said that it's a son. My grandfather likes her very much and is looking forward to the birth of his great-grandson. Charlotte gave a bitter smile. Your grandfather's generation has a very strong concept of carrying on the family line. You should also be more open-minded. There are some things that can't be corrected. Shinta Tianyin nodded his head. Let's go. I'll bring you to see my grandfather. The two of them walked towards Shinta Weiye, who was sitting in the courtyard. The gazes of everyone in the Shinta family were gathered on Charlotte's body. There was no kindness in the eyes of the Shinta family members. They had already seen Charlotte as an enemy that would affect their current superior lives. Shinta Weiye's gaze also landed on Charlotte. His eyes actually contained a hint of anger. Shinta Tianyin braced himself and said, Grandfather, I'm back. Let me introduce you. This is Charlotte, my boyfriend. Charlotte then said, Hello, grandfather. I've bought you a gift. Before Charlotte could finish, Shinta Weiye coldly snorted. Who are you calling grandfather? If it's not that relationship, don't randomly call me grandfather. Behind Shinta Weiye, a large group of Shinta family members revealed a gloating smile, especially Shinta Tianfeng. Although his smile was not the most obvious, he was undoubtedly the happiest one. Charlotte did not get angry and said with a smile, Did I call you wrongly? Then what should I call you? Can I call you old master? Shinta Tianfeng's wife, Tan Jingjing, muttered, Such thick skin. Shinta Tianyin looked at Tan Jingjing, who then looked away and shut her mouth. Charlotte placed the gift next to Shinta Weiye's chair but Shinta did not even look at it. Tianyin, when did the two of you get together? Shinta stared straight at Shinta Tianyin, not concealing the dissatisfaction in his heart at all. Shinta Tianyin said, "We've been together for a few months. I wasn't sure in the past, but now I'm sure that he's the person I've been looking for in this lifetime. That's why I brought him back to meet you and your uncles and aunts. In the future, we'll be a family, and we'll have to meet sooner or later." A family? Shinta frowned. Shinta Tianyin braced himself and said, "Yes, we plan to get married during the spring festival." "Oomph, I'm not dead yet." Shinta tone was very aggressive. "Why didn't you ask me about such a big matter? Why didn't you ask your uncles and aunts? Your marriage is a big matter for our Shinta family. Can you make the decision by yourself?" Shinta Tianyin gently bit her lips. Her heart was definitely broken at the moment, but she was a very strong-willed woman. She endured and did not let her tears flow out. Charlotte saw this and felt sad for her in his heart. At this moment, Shintu and Wang Fong came out of the central room. "Dad, this kid gave me a bad look the moment he came in." Wang Fong complained as soon as she came in. "I was thinking for Tianyin's sake. I said that he's a high school student, and he said that I'm not looking for a son-in-law. Dad, tell me, how can such a person become our Tianyin's man?" The people of Shinta family immediately started discussing. How can it be such a person? Yeah, why would Tianyin find such a man? He's too uncultured. If Tianyin marries such a disrespectful person, can we still stay in the Wanxiang Corporation in the future? Everyone was talking at once. Actually, all of them could be summed up in one word: money. Chapter 173. Of course, there are also some who cleverly remain neutral, only watching and not saying anything. Whether it was Shinta Tianyin continuing to be in charge of the Wanxiang Corporation, or Shinta Tianfeng replacing Shinta Tianyin, they wanted to wait for the situation to become clear before taking sides. Now, let Shinta Weiye and Shinta Yi's family fight with Shinta Tianyin. While others were discussing and watching, Charlotte was also observing. He observed the expressions of these Shinto family members, read their lips, and knew their thoughts like the back of his hand. Shinto Weiye was just worrying about not being able to find a topic to vent his anger on Charlotte when Wang Fong came. After Wang Fong finished complaining, he stared at Charlotte and said unhappily, "Is that what you said?" "Yes." Charlotte admitted it, not seeming to mind at all. "That's what I said. So what if I'm a high school student? Is there a law in the country that says high school students can't fall in love or get married? Marriage is a matter between two people. If someone interferes, what's their motive?" He laid special emphasis on the word motive. Among the Shinta family members present, the others were just joining in the fun, watching the situation, and then being a fence-sitter. However, Shinta Weiye and Shinta Yi's family had the most important motive. Shinta Weiye said angrily, "What's wrong with you? You and Tianyin are together, so Wang Fong is your elder. How can you speak to your elder like that?" Charlotte smiled. "She is indeed my elder, but I didn't say anything. I just said that she wasn't looking for a son-in-law. She really didn't look for a son-in-law, right?" "You." Shinta Weiye was so angry that his beard trembled. Shinta Tianfeng hurriedly went forward and patted Shinta Weiye's back. "Grandpa, don't be angry. It's not worth getting angry over such a thing. You have to take care of your health." Shintu Qianfeng's woman, Tan Jingjing, added oil to the fire. "That's right, Grandpa. There are some people who can't wait for something to happen to you. You have to take care of your health. You still have to see your great-grandson being born." "Who are you talking about?" Shinta Tianyin glared at Tan Jingjing with anger in his eyes. "I didn't say who." Tan Jingjing was a little timid and didn't dare to look at Shintu Tianyin's eyes. Charlotte said, "I'm not good with words. If I said something wrong, please forgive me." Then he said to Shinta Tianyin, "My dear, take me to see Uncle." "Okay, I'll take you there." Shinta Tianyin then said to Shintu Weiye, "Grandpa, I'll take Charlotte to see my father. I'll come back to accompany you later." Shintu Weiye said, "Take him there and then come over. I have something to talk to you about." "Okay," Shinta Tianyin replied. And then he brought Xia Lei away from the dam in the rear courtyard and walked toward a row of houses. On the way, Charlotte said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I made your grandpa angry just now. I just can't bear to see them force you like this. When I get angry, I can't help but want to get angry." Shinta Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. "Why are you apologizing to me? My grandpa has never been happy to see me. It's useless for you to please him." Charlotte said, "Yes, even if I pretend to be obedient and kowtow to him, he won't be happy. But if you were a boy and I was a girl, and you took me home and said that I was your girlfriend, he would definitely be very happy." Shinta Tianyin seemed to be imagining that scene. Then she smiled again. "If you were a girl, then you must be a fickle woman." Charlotte was stunned for a moment. "What do you mean? How can I be a fickle woman?" Shinta Tianyin said, "If I'm a boy, then Liang Xiao is also a boy. Just last night, you had a relationship with Liang Xiao. If that's not fickle, then what is? Why does she always remember this?" Charlotte smiled bitterly. "We've been together for almost half a year. I went to her father's boxing club to learn Wing Chun, and then we met. Later, she helped me take care of the company. Her father also accepted me as an official disciple and taught me the real Wing Chun that was passed down from her ancestors. We went to work together, ate together, and practiced together. Well, it's called love grows with time. How can it be said that it was just one night?" His relationship with Liang Xiao did develop little by little. At work, in life, and when he practiced, he spent a lot of time with Liang Xiao, joking with her, playing with her, giving her massages, and so on. These are all factors that could easily produce feelings. Moreover, as far as Liang Xiao was concerned, her face was beautiful. Her figure was also hot, especially her pair of beautiful legs that were even more beautiful than Lin Jiling's legs. Coupled with her good temperament and character, what else could he be picky about? When others looked for a girlfriend, they would also consider work and family, but he didn't care about this. He just looked for a beautiful one that he liked. Beautiful and liked were his only criteria. The corner of Shintu Tianyin's mouth slightly tilted up. Is her kung fu very powerful? In Charlotte's mind suddenly appeared the fierce appearance of Liang Xiao when he fought with her. The powerful legs, the white and tender fist, and the pair of big breasts that trembled endlessly. His mouth couldn't help but reveal a smile. After all, she is the true disciple of my master. She is very powerful. I can now tie with her. After all, she has been practicing since she was a child. When you went back and told her yesterday, didn't she get angry? She was a little angry at first, but I convinced her. She is a reasonable woman." Shinta Tianyin said, "I guess it was probably because you told her about us. Then she got angry, you went to coax her, and then you couldn't help but be together, right?" Charlotte couldn't help but look at Shinta Tianyin. He didn't say anything, but he was very surprised in his heart. She could actually guess such a thing. "Then you two, had a relationship, right?" Charlotte's head was a little big, and he said awkwardly, "What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about," Shinta Tianyin said. "We haven't reached that step yet, but—" Charlotte suddenly reacted. "Why are you asking this?" Shinta Tianyin seemed to have gotten the answer she wanted. She smiled and said, "Nothing, just casually chatting." Then, she muttered in a voice that even she couldn't hear, "I'm afraid you're afraid that I'll snatch it away. Do you think I can't see through your mind? Cunning." "What did you say?" "Nothing." "Oh, we're here. Come with me," Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte discovered that as they chatted, they unknowingly crossed the backyard and came to the back garden. There was a small garden in the garden, with an antique wall, a moon-shaped arch, and a unique tile-roofed house behind it. The tile-roofed house was made of wood, and the walls and pillars were made of high-quality mahogany. It was antique and elegant. Fu Chuanfu was already waiting in front of the door. He had his hands behind his back, and his face was expressionless. When Shinta Tianyin led Charlotte over, he turned around and opened the door behind him. After entering the house, Charlotte saw Shinta Tianyin's father, Shinta Run, lying on the bed. Shinta Run was only in his 50s, but he looked like an old man in his 60s. His face was pale, and his body was very thin. He was lying on the bed, not moving at all. His breathing was very weak. It was almost impossible to see the rise and fall of his chest. This was a very bad state, and he might stop breathing at any time. "Dad, I'm here to see you." Touching the scene, Shinta Tianin's voice was full of sadness, and his eyes were filled with tears. Charlotte was also affected. He said sadly, "Uncle, I'm Tianin's boyfriend. I'm here to see you." Shinta Ren did not respond at all. Shinta Tianin said gloomily, "My father is only relying on the nutrient solution to maintain his life, but his situation is getting worse and worse. I really don't know how long he can hold on." Charlotte said, "Why not continue the treatment?" Shinta Tianin said, "I've found the best doctors in the world, and my father has also been to the best hospitals in the world, but the conclusion they gave is the same. There is no cure. I have accepted this fact, and now I only hope that a miracle will happen." Charlotte comforted him. "Don't be sad. Your father will get better." "Well, you talk to my father. I'll talk to my grandfather. I'd like to see what he wants to talk to me about when I take you home." Shinta Tianin left Shinta Ren's room. Fu Chuanfu said, "Mr. Xia, I'll be cutting flowers outside. If there's anything, just call me." "Okay, Uncle Fu, you go ahead with your work. I'll talk to Uncle," Charlotte said. After Fu Chuanfu left, only Charlotte and Shinta Ren were left in the room. One was lying down, unable to move, and the other was idle and bored. Stroke is a disease in which the blood circulation of the brain is affected by the blockage or rupture of the blood vessels in the brain. If the disease is serious, the patient will die quickly. If the disease is not serious, the patient can survive, but there will be sequelae such as paralysis. In that case, he is not dead, and Shinta Ren's stroke is actually not serious. I wonder what's going on in his head right now. Such a thought suddenly came to Charlotte's mind. Just after this thought came to mind, his left eye twitched slightly and locked on to Shinta Ren's head. He was not interested in chatting with a person who had been paralyzed in bed for 3 years. That was a waste of time. Instead of talking nonsense, it was better to do something practical. He had been studying medicine for a period of time, and his research on acupuncture was even more mature. In this kind of situation, he definitely wanted to try his skills. The internal situation of Shinta Ren's brain was presented to Charlotte's left eye at a glance. The vision of his left eye was like a scalpel, cutting off layer after layer and gradually examining the inside of Shinta Ren's brain. This kind of ability, even the world's most advanced nuclear magnetic resonance detector could not compare. A few minutes later, Charlotte ended his X-ray vision of Shinta Ren. He also knew the internal situation of Shinta Ren's brain like the back of his hand. There were 2 parts of Shinta Ren's brain that could not be removed by surgery. However, the amount of blood accumulated was not a lot, and it did not affect his life. Otherwise, he would have died a long time ago. In addition, he found that some of the blood vessels in Shinta Ren's head were blocked, and the blockage of these blood vessels reduced the blood supply to the brain. The brain was the center of life, and without enough blood to provide nutrients, it could not function normally. The brain was in a dormant state. So, could his body organs still function normally? Obviously not. If I can use silver needles to unblock his blocked blood vessels, will he wake up? Charlotte had a bold idea in his mind. Chapter 174. In the Shinta family clan's ancestral hall, Shinta Tianin was facing Shinta Weiye and a large number of Shinta family members. She had seen these people's faces since she was young. They were very familiar, but at this moment, she felt very unfamiliar. "Grandpa, what do you want to talk to me about?" Shinta Tianin did not want to stay here for another minute. Shinta Weiye looked unhappy. "Do you really plan on marrying that kid?" Shinta Tianin said, "We love each other, and he is very outstanding. Why wouldn't I marry him?" "Outstanding?" Wang Fong interrupted and said, "That kid is just a high school student. What's so outstanding about him?" Shinta Tianin said, "He started from scratch, and now he is the boss of Lima Manufacturing Company. Even the Shinjo Industrial Group wants to cooperate with him, asking him to solve problems they can't solve. If that's not outstanding, then what is? In addition, he is indeed a high school student, but he knows a few foreign languages. Second aunt, I remember you're also a university student. How many foreign languages do you know? Wang Fong was ashamed and could not say a word. She was a university student who had learned English, but she did not even have the courage to say hello to the British and Americans. Shinta Tianyin continued. Charlotte is an authentic Wing Chun descendant. He knows real kung fu. I feel very safe when I am with him. If you're not satisfied with such an outstanding person, then find me someone better than him. The people in the room were speechless. Shinta Tianyin said again, Charlotte is the best mechanic in the country. Not only that, he is also an excellent electrical engineer. Yesterday, he saw our blueprints and exposed the scam of a German engineer. He saved our Wanxiang group 200 million. Can you still say that such a person is not outstanding? The people in the room were still speechless. Actually, when I am with Charlotte, other than having more money than him, what else do I have? I know I am not as good as him, let alone others. Shinta Tianyin glanced at Wang Fong. Although she didn't say Wang Fong's name, she was talking about Wang Fong. Wang Fong's face turned red. All right, even if he's outstanding and worthy of you, he doesn't pass the test of temper and character. He's so hot-tempered. If you marry him, you'll suffer. Also, he has such a strong personality. If you listen to him in the future, where will our Shun Tu family put our face? Shin Tu Yi chimed in. That's right. You are a woman of our Shun Tu family, and also the chairman of our Wanxiang group. If a man were to ride on top of you, where would the old man and us put our faces? Shintu Weiye stared at Shintu Tianyin. This seemed to be what he wanted to say, and he was waiting for Shintu Tianyin's answer. Shintu Tianyin was silent for a moment, then swept his gaze across the crowd. I don't think it's about where to put your face, but where to put your money, right? You? Shintu Weiye was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He raised the walking stick in his hand, as if he wanted to hit Shintu Tianyin, but Shintu Tianyin didn't even blink. For some reason, he didn't dare to hit him. Taking advantage of one's seniority was selling one's face, one's identity. If he were to tear his face apart, how could he sell it? Shintu Tianfeng then patted Shintu Weiye's back and pretended to advise. Grandfather, Tianyin also has her own plans. Don't be angry. Tianyin quickly apologized to grandfather. He's already so old, being angry is bad for his body. I'm sorry, grandfather. Shinta Tianyin apologized. Shinta Tianfeng then said to Shinta Weiye, Grandfather, Tianyin has already apologized to you. Don't be angry. We're all family. Why make things so tense? Only then did Shinta Weiye put away his walking stick. Shinta Tianyin said, Grandfather, Charlotte, and I are going to get married during the spring festival. I decide my love, who I like, who I want to spend the rest of my life with. These are my own matters. You don't have to worry about it. Good, good, Shinta Weiye angrily said. You don't have this grandfather in your eyes anymore, do you? Shinta Tianyin calmly said, Me getting married and you being my grandfather, these are two different things. Can these two things be put together as a reason for me not to get married? You, Shinta Weiye was furious on the spot. Speaking so bluntly, Shinta Tianyin had clearly set up a battlefield. In the past, she didn't have such an attitude in front of Shinta Weiye. Usually, she would go along with Shintu Weiye's wishes. When Shintu Weiye scolded her, or even scolded her, she would endure it and remain silent. But today, after bringing Charlotte home, she seemed to have changed into a different person. On the side, Shintu Yi touched Wang Fong with the back of his hand. Wang Fong understood and said, Yo, did you see that? In the past, our family's Tianyin was very obedient. She never talked back in front of the old man. But after bringing that kid back today, she's different. She even dares to talk back to the old man. Tianyin, I'm not talking about you. What I mean is it must be that kid who taught you. You're already like this when you're not married. If you're married and you give birth to his child, can he still tolerate us, Shinta family members? At that time, I'm afraid the Wanxiang Corporation will have to change its surname to Xia, right? Would there still be anything left for us? At that time, I'm afraid we'll have to pack up and leave the Wanxiang Corporation. In the ancestral hall, the Shinta family members were discussing. Xiaolei's appearance was like a ferocious wolf that had barged into their sheep pen. He had already threatened their vital interests. Shinto Weiye coughed, and the Shinto family members immediately quietened down. Shinto Weiye said, Tianyin, you can't marry that kid. Shinto Tianyin said, Grandpa, we're already living together. I'm already his woman. I won't marry anyone other than him. Grandpa, I can follow your wishes on other matters, but not on this matter. This is my life's matter. I have to make my own decisions. All right then, hand the Wanxiang Corporation over to Tianfeng to manage. Shinto Weiye said, if you hand the Wanxiang Corporation over to Tianfeng, I won't stop you from marrying whoever you want. Shinto Weiye couldn't help but say it. In the past, he was just hinting and beating around the bush. But once Charlotte came, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Love and career, this was the choice he threw to Shinto Tianyin. The ancestral hall was silent. This was a very critical moment. The Shinto family members were very nervous, especially Shinto Yi's family. They were more excited than anyone else. Shinto Tianyin was about to speak when a head popped in from the door. It was Charlotte's head. Everyone's eyes gathered on Charlotte. Shinto Yi's family wanted to rush up and trample on him. At such a critical moment, why was he still haunting them? Charlotte smiled and said, Meeting? I'm sorry, I want to talk to Tianyin. I'll only take a minute. Shinto Weiye suddenly roared. It's all because of you. Get out of here. You're not welcome here. Charlotte wasn't angry at all. He still had a ruffian smile on his face. Grandpa, calm down. You're so old. It's not good for your health to be angry. I'll tell you the truth. I'm living with Tianyin, and she's pregnant with my child. How can you bear to separate our family? Everyone in the room was petrified, including Shinto Tianyin. She just said that she was living with Charlotte, but Charlotte was even more exaggerated. He actually said that she was pregnant with a child. It was somewhat inexplicable. Although there was no pregnancy, Shinto Tianyin's cheeks turned red. After a moment of silence, there was another round of whispering. How could this be? Tianyin is a woman of our Shinto family and the chairman of the Wanxiang group. How could she be pregnant with that kid child? I really couldn't tell that Tianyin was such a woman. Don't you understand now? This kid is clearly scheming against the Wanxiang group. He has the child in Tianyin's belly as his trump card. He doesn't even care about the old man. Yeah, this kid is really amazing. He's so arrogant even before getting married. Tianyin can't control him. If he really gets married and they have a child, won't we be driven out of the Wanxiang group by him? Shinto Weiye raised the walking stick in his hand. The ancestral hall quieted down again. Shinto Weiye said again, All right, you come in too. Charlotte walked in. He actually wanted to tell Shinto Tianyin that he wanted to try treating Shinto Run with injections. However, he obviously wouldn't say such a thing in front of these people. Charlotte walked to Shinto Tianyin's side and whispered in her ear, I have good news to tell you. We'll talk about it when we get out. And Shinto Tianyin responded softly. The blush on her cheeks became even more obvious. The two of them were showing off their affection in public. The Shinto family felt even more uncomfortable. Shinto Weiye coughed and said slowly, Tianyin, since you already have Charlotte's child, I won't object to your marriage. How about this? You let Tianfeng take over the Wanxiang Corporation. You can stay at home and take care of your husband and children. You could be a good wife and mother. What do you think? Shinto Tianyin was about to speak, but Charlotte pulled her hand and whispered in her ear, Let me be the bad guy. After all, they're your blood relatives. You still have to get along in the future. I don't mind. I'm not familiar with them anyway. Shinto Tianyin was slightly stunned. However, she understood Charlotte's good intentions. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded her head lightly. Charlotte, if you have anything to say it out loud. Don't murmur. Shinto Tianfeng couldn't bear it any longer. He said bluntly, I didn't let you come in to speak. You just have to listen. Charlotte smiled. I'm not a mute. If I have something to say, of course I have something to say. Moreover, since you let Tianyin make such a decision, I have even more to say. After all, we're about to get married, and our child will be born next year. Her business is also my business. Why can't I say it? You brat. Shinto Tianfeng really wanted to kick Charlotte out. Let him speak. Shintu Weiye sneered. I want to hear what he has to say. Charlotte cleared his throat, then said, since the old man has already made it clear, then I will also say my opinion. I think you guys are going too far. What nonsense are you spouting? Shinto was also angry. He pointed at Charlotte's nose. This is your Shinto family. Don't be so shameless. Wang Fong also said, Tianyin, listen what he has to say. Do you want to marry such a person? Shinto Tianyin didn't say a word, pretending not to hear anything. She knew very well what Charlotte wanted to do, and her heart was filled with gratitude. Shinto Weiye used his walking stick to knock on the floor and said angrily, let him speak. Chapter 175. Shinto Weiye rapped the floor tiles as everyone quietened down. Only then did Charlotte carry on. Old man, I know what you are thinking. You do not care about money. You just want to leave wealth for the Shinto family's descendants. You even want the Shinto family to develop into a prominent and prestigious family. Am I right? Shinto Weiye did not say a word, but Charlotte's words seemed to have struck a chord in his heart. Charlotte continued, carrying on the family line is a conservative idea of us Chinese. It is also a common social phenomenon to value sons over daughters. You are an old man, so I am not surprised that you have such ideas. However, have you ever thought that even in a royal family, after a few generations, who would remember who is whose descendant? I'll say something unpleasant, but after 100 years, who would still remember you? Old man Shinto? How dare you? Shinto Tianfeng did not want to hear such words the most. He was afraid that Charlotte would use such ideas to convince Shinto Weiye. He pointed at Charlotte's nose. Shut up. Charlotte suddenly roared at Shinto Tianfeng. Shut up. You actually dare to tell me to shut up? Shinto Tianfeng was so angry that he laughed. He looked like he could not believe it. Charlotte said disdainfully, who do you think you are? Don't think that just because you have the old man backing you, you can bully Tianyin as you please. Let me tell you, with me around, don't even think about it. You. Charlotte pointed at Shinto Tianfeng's nose. What about me? You can't beat me in a fight, and you can't beat me in a scolding. What can you do to me? As for you, you're eating someone else's rice, and you're still staring at someone else's bowl. You don't know how to be grateful, and instead, you're scheming for someone else's property all day long. You even brought out an old man to support you. If I were you, I would drown myself in a pool of pee. It's embarrassing to live in this world. If he wanted to be a villain, he had to be one to the end. Charlotte spared no effort in mocking Shinto Tianfeng in a bid to completely infuriate him. F***ku. Shinto Tianfeng cursed and struggled free from Tanjingjing. He rushed forward and slapped Charlotte's face. Charlotte raised his hand. Before Shinto Tianfeng's slap could reach him, his fist had already reached Shinto Tianfeng's face. However, he did not hit Shinto Tianfeng. His fist only stopped at the bridge of Shinto Tianfeng's nose and did not strike down. He only wanted to let Shinto Tianfeng understand that he could beat him anytime he wanted. Although he had not been hit, Shinto Tianfeng could still feel the aura of the wind emanating from Charlotte's fist. He was stunned and didn't dare to act rashly. Charlotte retracted his fist. Don't overestimate yourself. I didn't hit you because you're Tianyin's brother. Shinto Tianfeng's eyes looked as if he wanted to eat Charlotte's flesh and drink Charlotte's blood, but he didn't dare to make a move. Everyone looked at Charlotte with their mouths agape. No one could believe that a son-in-law who had yet to marry would dare to say such things about a member of the Shinto family, let alone Shinto Weiye's favorite, Shinto Tianfeng. Old man, did you hear that? Wang Fong suddenly cried. He's gone too far. Don't you have anything to say? When have we, the Shinto family, been bullied like this? You? In the future, if this brat marries our Tianyin and enters our Shinto family, I will. There will be neither him nor me. Charlotte laughed. There will be neither me nor you? All right, do you know how to get to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Divorce procedures are very simple now and can be done on the same day. I'm so angry. Wang Fong began to make a scene, crying and making a ruckus. Are all the men in your Shinto family dead? No one said a word when he bullied me like this. Ooh, no one moved. Charlotte had long seen through the mentality of the Shinta family. These people were just waiting for the results before deciding whose side to stand on. Now that the outcome had not been decided, they would not easily choose a side. Shinta pointed his walking stick at Charlotte and laughed angrily. Very good, very good. You are an outsider, and you have not even entered my family's door, and you have already caused a foul atmosphere in my family. If I really let you enter my family, then that would be terrible. Tianyin, get him a scram. Shinta Tianyin pretended not to hear anything and just stood there quietly, looking at Charlotte. In these few short minutes, she suddenly realized that she did not understand Charlotte that well. This was also the first time she had seen Charlotte being so strong and overbearing. But it was this unreasonable, even crude and barbaric Charlotte that had touched her heart, giving her a very strong sense of security. Some women like strong and overbearing men. Some women like gentle and attentive men. And Charlotte seemed to have both qualities. Charlotte did not notice the subtle change in Shinta Tianyin's gaze as he continued to say, I will leave, but I have to finish what I have to say. You want Tianyin to hand over the Wanxian Corporation? On what basis? Just because your surname is Shintu? Tianyin's father established the Wanxian Corporation, and after his success, he did not forget you. So you are also rich. But now, Tianyin's father is paralyzed in bed, and he is not dead yet, but you have already begun to force Tianyin to hand over the Wanxian Corporation. Touch your conscience. If this isn't repaying kindness with ingratitude, then what is? Everyone in the room was speechless. Charlotte continued, I know that you feel that you have contributed to the Wanxian Corporation, and your surnames are also Shintu, but when you work in other companies, don't you have to work? You want Tianyin to hand over the Wanxian Corporation, but do you have the law to support you? Or is it your conscience that supports you? In my opinion, you just saw that her father is paralyzed in bed, and she is just a woman, so you want to take the opportunity to scheme for the assets that her father left for her. After Charlotte finished speaking, there was still no sound in the ancestral hall. It was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Charlotte's words were very unpleasant to hear, but they were all true. I'm done, I'm leaving. Charlotte turned and walked out the door. Wait, Shinta Tianyin called out to him. Wait a moment. I'll say one word, and we'll leave. Charlotte stopped in his tracks. Shinta Tianyin looked at Shinta Weiye with a calm expression. Grandpa, you asked me to make the decision just now, and I've thought it through. I think what Charlotte said is right. Why should I hand over the Wanxian Corporation? It is my father's life's work, and I will protect it. I have done a good job, and I don't think there is anyone in the Shinta family who is more qualified for my current position. As for the future, I want to wait until my child is born before I consider it. That's it. I'm leaving. You guys continue to discuss. If anyone feels that they can no longer stay in the Wanxian Corporation, I welcome them to submit a letter of resignation at any time. Everyone in the room was stunned. This was Shinta Tianyin's decision. He didn't give them any face at all. Shinta said angrily, Leave. As long as you walk out of this house with that kid, don't come back. Shinta Tianyin said indifferently, Grandpa, you're old and can't tell right from wrong. Don't get involved in these matters anymore. You're being used by others, don't you know? Get lost. Shinta Weiye couldn't catch his breath and kept panting. This time, Shinta Tianfeng didn't pat his back. His old face couldn't be sold, and it had no value. Shinta Yi's family would no longer flatter him like they did in the past. Shinta Tianyin held Charlotte's hand and said intimately, let's go see my dad. Charlotte responded. He turned his head to look at the people from the Shinta family in the ancestral hall. Those people all avoided his gaze, as if they were afraid that he would remember their faces and settle the score with them in the future. In the eyes of these people from the Shinta family, Charlotte had already entered the Shinta family in such a domineering manner. He was already destined to be the man who would ride on Shinta Tianyin's body. Who would dare to offend him? Shinta Tianfeng, Shintu Yi, and Wang Feng's eyes were spitting fire as they watched Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin leave intimately. After all their schemes, what they got in the end was a humiliation. This result was like a vicious mockery to this family, and they couldn't accept it. This path can't be taken, Shintui said in a low voice. This is the path she chose, so don't blame me for being heartless. Shinta Tianfeng's voice was very cold. Wang Fong said hatefully, it's all that brat Charlotte's fault. He's simply a piece of mouse shit, stirring up a pot of soup. I really don't know what that little slut sees in him. She hasn't even gotten married yet, but she's already pregnant with that brat's bastard. How embarrassing. Shintu Yi said, can't you see it yet? Shinta Tianin has taken a fancy to that brat's strength. She deliberately found this kind of man to support her. This is going to be difficult. This brat is a very difficult person to deal with. Difficult? Dad, you're overestimating him. I know someone who will be happy to deal with him. I'll contact that person right now. A cold smile surfaced on Shintu Tianfeng's face. Shintu Yi was stunned for a moment. You're talking about Gukawu? Shinta Tianfeng nodded his head. It's no secret that Gukawu likes that little slut. Gukawu also has the same plan as us, but this time, he will also become one of my chess pieces. Just you wait, the show has just begun. On the way, Shinta Tianin kept looking at Charlotte with a strange expression. Charlotte felt a little uncomfortable under her gaze, and said with a smile, why are you looking at me like that? Shinta Tianin said, I'm curious. You look so fierce just now. I've never seen you so overbearing and domineering. When you're with Liang Xiao, will you also be this fierce to her? Charlotte smiled bitterly. We sometimes joke around and play around. That kind of situation definitely won't happen. Besides, aren't I helping you? I've thought about it. If I ruthlessly provoke that family, they won't be able to resist taking action, and you'll be able to solve the problem. Do you want to solve this problem quickly? Of course, it's better to solve this kind of problem as soon as possible. If it drags on, you won't be able to guard against it, which will be very dangerous for you. Charlotte said. Shintu Tianin's lips moved, as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything. Charlotte said, it's better not to talk about this here. Do you remember when I came to find you? I said I had good news to tell you? What good news? I've seen your father's condition. I don't think his condition is as serious as you think it is. I've learned martial arts and know a little about acupuncture. If you're willing to let me try, I might be able to wake him up. Huh? Shinta Tianin stared at Charlotte, dumbfounded. I'm telling the truth. Charlotte had a serious look on his face. However, you have to take me to a place that's convenient for treatment. I don't want to come here again. Shinta Tianin suddenly hugged Charlotte. Charlotte froze on the spot. Chapter 176. Before getting out of the car, Charlotte said, looking at today's situation, Shun Tuyi's family may make a move on you in advance. You have to be careful. Try not to go to public places, and don't go to remote places with few people. Well, let's get down to business. Charlotte was very embarrassed. He took out his mobile phone, opened the photo gallery, and clicked on a photo. Qin Xiang said with a smile, why are you being so polite to me? You know what I do. I'm about to die of boredom when you let me sit in the office. Fortunately, you let me do my old job occasionally. I'm very happy. What are you sorry about? Charlotte first went to Mizumai supermarket and found Qin Xiang. Eat your snacks. You guys aren't getting married, are you? Qin Xiang suddenly blurted out this sentence. Charlotte said, your father's disease is mainly blood vessel blockage. Giving him nutrients and drugs that can strengthen the cardiovascular system will help his blood circulation. With increased blood circulation, his vitality will be stronger, and there will be less risk when I treat him. Shinta Tianin frowned slightly. We are about to get married. I'm still pregnant with your child. How can I let you go back by yourself? The office was filled with laughter. Shinta Tianin interrupted her. Charlotte and Liang Xiao have been together for a long time. It's normal for them to fall in love over time. Besides, Miss Liang is also a very good woman. You have to remember that money is not the standard to measure whether a person is good or not. True love has nothing to do with money. Xiao Lei and Liang Xiao were in the same situation as firewood encountering raging fire. Until now, Xiao Lei, who was still a virgin, had brought along a barrel of gasoline, and Liang Xiao's entire body was covered with lighters. With just a little friction, the lighter would ignite. What about kissing? Of course there's something, Charlotte said with a smile. Why do you have so many snacks? Are you stimulated? Do you want to vent by eating? Charlotte patted him on the shoulder. Be careful. He's a difficult person to deal with. Then he said, I actually feel quite bad asking you to do these things for me all the time. Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte strangely. You care about me? Charlotte thought for a moment. 50%. Andy Lau, take it off and accept the inspection. I think it's strange, too. She came to work today and bought a shopping cart full of snacks for no reason. Then, when she met people she knew, she gave out candies and melon seeds. All right, she also bought a carton of cigarettes. When she met people who smoked, she gave them 2 cigarettes. Qin Xiang was stunned for a moment, then she chuckled and said, It's just as I guessed. She's happy that you're in love, and then she acts up and gives candy and cigarettes to everyone she knows. I knew it. She usually asked me for a discount when she bought groceries at the supermarket. Why would she buy so many delicious snacks for me? You don't have that one? You must be very strong, right? How long? Guess again. Nutrition needed by the cardiovascular system? Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte with some puzzlement. Charlotte said curiously, She's a very thrifty person. Would she buy so many snacks for you? Impossible. You trust me that much? Shinta Tianyin smiled. It seems that your master has not regarded you as an ordinary disciple for a long time. He has taught you all his unique skills. I'm afraid he has long wanted to train you as his son-in-law, right? Outside the door, Dubai, the head of the personnel department, was holding a list of newly recruited employees. He was sweating profusely. He was thinking about whether to go in or not. Well, I'll get ready, and then we'll start. I'll contact you as soon as there's news. Qin Xiang said. Don't talk about it. Let's drive. Shinta Tianyin said, Go back and ask Uncle Fu to gather his former subordinates. During this time, if it's only the 2 of you, it's obviously not enough. However, the 2 of them didn't lose their minds in the end. After all, this was the office, and there was no telling when someone would come. You're a greedy cat. Liang Xiao scratched Charlotte's cheek with her white finger. You only know how to cheat. I'm going to tell my dad. He'll tie you up and beat you. Yes, 50%. Charlotte said, I'm not sure. If you think the risk is too great, you can choose to give up. Charlotte, Liang Xiao didn't react violently. A smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Well, Beckham. Shinta Tianyin watched Charlotte walk into the gate of the community through the car window. Only when he was out of sight did he say, Mingmei, let's go. Qin Xiang was eating snacks, a lot of snacks, chocolate, pine nuts, pistachios, and so on. They were all relatively high-end snacks. When Xiaolei walked into his office, he was stuffing a pine nut into his mouth and chewing it contentedly. Give me a week's time. During this period of time, let the nutritionists give me more nutrients and medicines that my cardiovascular system needs. Also the nutrients that my brain needs, Xiaolei said to Shinta Tianyin after settling Shinta down. Charlotte smiled. Of course I care about you. Okay, goodbye. He got out of the car. Pan Changjiang. Half an hour after Shinta Tianyin and Fu Mingmei left, Charlotte also drove his black BMW M6 out of the community. He first went to a pharmacy that sold medical equipment and bought a set of silver needles, a first aid kit, and some medicine that he needed. Then he drove to Lima Manufacturing Company. There was still some time before work in the afternoon. Charlotte smiled. Then you get ready. I'll go see Xiao. Screw you. Qin Xiang rolled her eyes at Charlotte. I didn't buy these. Liang Xiao bought them for me. Charlotte said, Well, I'll come here in a week to treat your father. Well, I'll go back first. Call me if you need anything. Fu Mingmei drove the car into the driveway and said as she drove, Sister Tianyin, how did he become Liang Xiao's boyfriend? If I were him, I wouldn't fall in love so early. He's so excellent. He must be able to find the best woman, such as... Shinta Tianyin pursed his lips and smiled. If I didn't believe you, would I have asked you to do me such a favor? In the office, Liang Xiao was reading a document. Since Charlotte was not there, she had to do the work that Charlotte should have done. She was so focused that she didn't notice Charlotte coming in at all. You pervert. Liang Xiao grabbed Charlotte and said, I want to check. You know a lot, but why didn't I know that you studied medicine? Shinta Tianyin wanted to ask this question when she was in the Shinta family, but she didn't say it in front of the Shinta family. Well, I noticed when you came in. I just wanted to see what tricks you were playing. Liang Xiao giggled and said, this is a child's game. You actually like to play this kind of game, but I won't laugh at you. Don't worry, haha. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. Charlotte shook his head. 50%? You're obviously smiling. Tell me, did you hold hands with Shinta Tianyin today? You two really love each other. When will you invite me to your wedding? Liang Xiao suddenly pulled him down and kissed his lips. People who are in love can feel the magic of love the most. It can make people happy, excited, and incomparable joy, but it can also make people impulsive. The two of them who were entangled quickly turned the light kiss into a wet kiss, and the wet kiss into a French kiss. Their hands also began to be dishonest. At the beginning of the kiss, they were only hugging each other's waist. But in the blink of an eye, Liang Xiao's hand went into Charlotte's clothes, and Charlotte's hand went into her skirt. Shinta Tianyin thought for a moment. No, we've gone to the best hospitals in the world, but there's no way to treat him. If the current situation continues, my dad doesn't have much time left. I think if he can be sober for a minute, he will be willing to take this risk. You can treat him. Don't worry about the problems after failure. What have you been busy with these 2 days? Chewing on pine nuts. Qin Xiang's voice was a bit muffled. I haven't seen you all day. Shinta Tianyin picked up Shin Turin and transferred him to a villa in a high-end community in the city, so that it would be convenient for Charlotte to treat him. However, Charlotte did not treat Shin Turin that day. Before he did it, he had to have a certain amount of clinical experience. After all, Shin Turin was a weak patient who was paralyzed in bed. If something went wrong, he couldn't afford it. What about the bed? Stop it. Oh, what are you doing? Half an hour later, Fu Mingmei drove Shinta Tianyin's Rolls-Royce Phantom to the entrance of the community where Charlotte lived, and sent Fu Mingmei to the entrance of the community where Charlotte lived. Charlotte was shocked by him. How can it be so fast? Liang Xiao gently pushed Charlotte away, and her face was blushing. No, not here. Charlotte wanted to call her, but then he changed his mind. He tiptoed behind Liang Xiao, then slowly approached her, reached out his hand to cover her eyes, and then deliberately said with his tongue out, Guess who I am? Charlotte knew that she would ask such a question, and he had already prepared the answer. My master taught me that Kung Fu and Chinese medicine are both national quintessence, and there are many things in common. Well, I won't make fun of you. Shinta Tianyin asked again, How sure are you that you can wake my father up? Shinta Tianyin said, I'll drive you. But Charlotte shook his head even more vigorously. Fu Mingmei stepped on the gas, and the Rolls-Royce Phantom sped up and drove forward. Qin Xiang came over and saw the 3 people in the photo. She asked curiously, Who are these 3 people? Handing out candy and cigarettes, and 2 cigarettes at that, was something that only a bride would do. Of course, he understood why Liang Xiao was so happy. He felt a little funny in his heart. He really didn't expect Liang Xiao to have such a funny side. Shintu Yi, Shinta Tianfeng, and Wang Feng. Charlotte said, I want you to do me a favor. Keep an eye on these 3 people, especially this Shinta Tianfeng. He pointed to Shinta Tianfeng in the photo and said, I want to know who he met, who he talked on the phone, and so on. In short, find out as much as you can. That's no problem. What happened? Xiao Lei said, There's no need. I'll call a taxi back. Charlotte moved closer to Qin Xiang's ear and whispered what had happened. He wanted Qin Xiang to do this kind of thing for him. If she didn't even tell him the truth, how could Qin Xiang do things for him? It didn't matter if he told Qin Xiang his secret with Shinta Tianyin. He trusted Qin Xiang completely. Charlotte let go of her eyes and said with a bitter smile, You already knew I came in, didn't you? Guess again. Only then did Xiao Lei retract his probing hand. He looked as if he hadn't had enough and was nervous. Charlotte was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. Charlotte thought for a moment and felt that what she said made sense, so he agreed. It wasn't a big deal to fight back, but if someone with ulterior motives saw it, it would become a hidden danger. Charlotte smiled. You're the one who can't bear to part with it. Master can't bear to part with it either. Remember to ask her to return the shopping cart. Chapter 177. The previous recruitment strategy was very successful. In just a few days, the employees of Lima Manufacturing Company had persuaded their classmates or friends to come to Lima Manufacturing Company. There were as many as 56 of them. Moreover, there were also people who sent in application letters wanting to join Lima Manufacturing Company. The benefits were very good, the boss was very generous and kind, and there were many young girls in the factory. These were all places that attracted talents. Lima Manufacturing Company had not yet completed its upgrade, but the problem of talent reserve had been solved ahead of time. Charlotte did not need to worry about these things at all. It was enough for Liang Xiao and Du Bai, the director of the Human Resources Department, to worry about it. What he needed to solve was a new problem, which was how to get the clinical experience of acupuncture. When night fell, Charlotte began his experiment at home. His experimental subject was a rabbit. He tied the rabbit's 4 feet with a rope and fixed it to the table. Then he shaved off part of the hair on the rabbit's back with a shaving knife, exposing the skin. Then he twisted that part of the skin with his fingers, showing a bruised appearance. Finally, he used a silver needle to insert silver needles into the rabbit. The bruising of the skin was the cause of the injury of the subcutaneous tissue, the rupture and blockage of the capillaries. He wanted to use the silver needles to open the blocked capillaries on a rabbit's body. If he could do it, then in theory, he could also use the silver needles to unblock Shen Turin's blocked blood vessels. This was also the reason why he asked for a week's time. He had to experiment and prove that it was feasible before he could carry out acupuncture treatment on Shen Turin. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people could only see the bruised skin on the rabbit's body, but Charlotte was different. He could use his left eye to see the situation inside the rabbit's skin. He could clearly see which blood vessels were ruptured and which blood vessels were blocked. With this unparalleled ability, he could insert silver needles into the rabbit. If it were someone else, even an old Chinese medicine doctor with 50 years of acupuncture experience would not be able to insert silver needles into a rabbit. With a slight twitch of his left eye, the situation inside the injured skin of the rabbit entered the vision of Charlotte's left eye. He locked on to a blocked blood vessel, and then inserted a silver needle into the location of the blood vessel. No one had studied the acupuncture points of rabbits, and he wasn't poking the rabbit's acupuncture points, but the blood vessels. With the help of his left eye's X-ray vision, the silver needle in his hand accurately pierced into the blocked blood vessel. Then, he tilted the needle and slowly approached the blocked area. When the needle neared the clogged area, his arm trembled slightly, and a trace of inner strength rushed down his arm, almost instantly passing through the silver needle. When that trace of inner strength passed through the silver needle, the entire silver needle trembled, and the temperature of the needle also increased by quite a bit. That trace of inner strength rushed out of the needle and hit the blocked area of the blood vessel like a flood hitting a dam. There was no sound, but in Charlotte's eyes, the clogged blood vessel had burst. Then, the bruise on the rabbit's skin became worse. I used too much inner strength. I need to be smaller. Charlotte summed up the experience of failure. Then, he locked on to another blocked capillary and continued to use the silver needle and inner strength method to insert silver needles into the rabbit. This time, the blocked capillary did not burst, and only the wall of the vessel cracked. However, the blocked area was flushed a lot, and a small amount of extravasated blood flowed through the blood vessel. The third time, the blood vessel burst. The fourth time, the blood vessel burst. The fifth time, failure, failure, success, 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 failure. Over and over again, Charlotte's needle insertion speed increased from slow to fast, and his release of inner strength gradually became more accurate. His experience also became more and more abundant. The next morning, he gave the scarred blueprint to a neighbor and then drove to Lima Manufacturing Company for work. When he got off work yesterday afternoon, Liang Xiao asked him to go to her house, but he didn't go. 1 week was very tight, and he must practice his acupuncture skills to a certain level. Although he could also do experiments in the Liang family. What would they think if he inserted silver needles into a rabbit in front of Liang Xiao and Liang Zhengchun? Therefore, he finally chose his own home as the site of the experiment. When he came to the company, the delivery truck of Shenzhou Industry Group was already parked in the factory. That was the last batch of equipment to be upgraded according to the contract. Now, only waiting for the new workshop to be built, the newly recruited employees and equipment to be put into production, the upgrade of Lima Manufacturing Company would be completed. After instructing the workers to unload the goods, Charlotte came to the office. Liang Xiao had already made a cup of Jean Junmei for him. She was wearing a set of black OL clothes, a black coat, a black woolen skirt, black high heels, and a white shirt with a ruffle collar. She was indescribably youthful, beautiful, mature, and sexy. Charlotte felt that she was more delicious than the Jean Junmei she made, and he wanted to taste it. "What were you doing at home last night?" Liang Xiao asked with a smile. "Learning medicine." Charlotte told the truth. "Do you have to learn at home?" Charlotte said with a smile. "The ancient heroes had to choose a cave for seclusion. Of course, I also have to choose a place for seclusion. I also want to go to your house, but with you there, I don't think about medicine. Well, I need a week. After this week, I will use my acupuncture skills to treat Shin Tiannin's father. Maybe I can cure him." Liang Xiao's cherry lips suddenly curled up. "Shin Tiannin again. When will she give you back to me?" Charlotte gently held her waist and said softly, "Are you jealous?" "It's not true. You know I'm not that kind of person." Only then did Liang Xiao smile. She turned around and gave him a kiss. Women in love were the most likely to be jealous. Even the daughter of Jianghu, Liang Xiao, was no exception. However, although she was jealous, she was very broad-minded and easy to coax. She was fine after Charlotte coaxed her gently. "Well, ahem." Someone coughed at the door of the office. The sound was very soft and special. Without looking back, Charlotte knew that it was Qin Xiang standing at the door. He quickly let go of Liang Xiao and looked at Qin Xiang standing at the door of the office. He pretended to be dissatisfied and said, "Don't you know how to knock on the door?" Qin Xiang shrugged, pointed to the door against the wall, and said, "Do you want me to walk in and knock on the door?" Liang Xiao's face also turned red. She quickly said, "I'll go to the R&D department to have a look." Yihao said, "There's a new design. You guys talk." When Liang Xiao walked to her side, Qin Xiang deliberately said loudly, "I think there should be a slogan on the wall of our company, especially the wall here. No love and no intimacy during working hours." Liang Xiao glared at Qin Xiang and suddenly stepped on Qin Xiang's foot. Qin Xiang's mouth suddenly opened wide. She didn't close it even after Liang Xiao had gone out. Charlotte laughed and said, "You deserve it. You dared to provoke her. She even dares to hit me when she gets angry." Qin Xiang smiled bitterly and said, "She's the descendant of Yin Yongchun. I understand. Since you're here, you must have gained something, right?" Charlotte changed the topic to proper business. Qin Xiang walked over and didn't stand on ceremony. She picked up the Jean Junmei that Liang Xiao had brewed for Charlotte and drank a big mouthful before saying, "I didn't sleep last night. What if I didn't gain anything? The kid you asked me to pay attention to met with someone last night. Guess who?" Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "Gu Kuwu." "Ah." Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte in surprise and asked, "How did you guess it?" Charlotte smiled and said, "I caused a ruckus in the Shinta clan. The Shinta clan is still under Shintu Tiannin's control. He definitely can't use the Shinta clan's power to deal with me. If he wants to find help, Gu Kuwu is the best choice. It's no secret that Gu Qin likes Shinta Tiannin. He has always viewed Shinta Tiannin as his exclusive property. If I interfere, he will definitely take action, and that is exactly what Shinta Tianfeng would be happy to see." Qin Xiang gave Charlotte a thumbs up and said, "Amazing, but I don't understand. You told me that the Shinta clan doesn't want Shinta Tiannin to fall in love and get married. If Shinta Tianfeng want to find Gu Kuwu, wouldn't he be shooting himself in the foot? It's just a scheme to kill with a borrowed knife." Of course, Shinta Tianfeng wouldn't want Gu Kawu to get Shinta Tianin. He's not stupid. He knows what kind of person Gu Kawu is. Qin Xiang said worriedly. Then you have to be careful. Gu Qian represents the Gu clan. Charlotte said, I'll be careful. You have to be careful too. I'll continue to keep an eye on him. I'll contact you if there's any news. Qin Xiang left Charlotte's office. After Qin Xiang left, Charlotte quietly thought about the problem. When I decided to help Shinta Tianin, I expected that Gu Kawu would make a move. I'm not afraid of him now. I'm a consultant of 101 innings, and this identity can help me eliminate disasters. If it's in the dark, he'll probably choose this method, right? What will he do? It was easy to guess the thoughts of an ordinary person, but it was very difficult to guess the thoughts of a person like Gu Kawu. Just as he was thinking about something, a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes appeared at the door. He politely asked, Excuse me, are you Director Xiao? Charlotte went up to greet him. I am. May I ask who you are? Yes, I'm the general manager of the real estate development company under the Wanxiang Group. My name is Wanda Hai. I'm here to discuss a cooperation with you on behalf of our company. The middle-aged man called himself Wanda Hai and went straight to the point. Charlotte was a little puzzled. What cooperation? Wanda Hai took the initiative to shake hands with Charlotte and said with a smile, Our company has real estate in major cities all over the country. We need a lot of decorative railings, steel fasteners, and so on. I want to ask your company to process and produce them for us. This is not a small business. Our annual consumption is about 40 million. Charlotte suddenly understood that this Wanda Hai was sent by Shinta Tianin. If it weren't for Shinta Tianin, this Wanda Hai would definitely not come to Lima Manufacturing Company to talk about cooperation. Charlotte laughed bitterly in his heart and said to himself, What is she doing? There's no need for her to do this. Director Xia. Wanda Hai looked at Charlotte with some worry. Talk to me. The price can be discussed. The most important thing is to finalize the cooperation between our two companies. An order of 40 million was not a small order. At least 2 workshops would need to produce at full capacity for a year to complete it. The profit of producing the construction railings and steel fasteners was small, but this was a long-term order. Once it was signed, the workers in the 2 workshops would have work all year round. This kind of order was exactly what Lima Manufacturing Company needed. Well, let's talk. The price will be according to the market price. Charlotte quickly made a decision. Although this was a business sent by Shinta Tianin, business was business. If the Thunder Horse Manufacturing Company wanted to expand, it would naturally be better if there were more such businesses. He would not refuse. It was already noon when he sent Wanda Hai off. He wanted to ask Wanda Hai to stay for lunch, but Wanda Hai wanted to leave no matter what. He just didn't know if this was also Shinta Tianin's idea. He wanted to call Shinta Tianin and ask, but he gave up after thinking about it. If he called to thank him for such a thing, it would seem distant. After work in the afternoon, Charlotte went to the market and bought a rabbit. At night, he continued to practice his acupuncture on the rabbit. Chapter 178. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. At noon, Charlotte received a call from Shinta Tianin and drove to the headquarters of the Wanxiang Group, the Wanxiang Building. This was the tallest and most luxurious building in the entire Haizhu area, which was equivalent to the heart of the Wanxiang Group. In this Wanxiang Building, Shinta Tianin received information from various branches all over the country and then processed it to run her business empire. Charlotte had just parked the car in the parking lot when Fu Mingmei appeared. Come with me. Fu Mingmei waved to Charlotte. Charlotte got off the car, followed Fu Mingmei into an elevator, and then went directly to the top floor of the Wanxiang Building. Shinta Tianin's office was on the top floor of the Wanxiang Building, which gave Charlotte a scare. It was a full 200 square meters very wide. The office used a lot of metal materials and cold color elements, giving people a kind of cold feeling. This was in line with her character, noble, generous, and elegant. Shinta Tianin sat behind a silver metal desk. Fu Chuanfu stood next to her, and in front of her stood 4 men, very strange men. None of the clothes they were wearing were valuable. They looked like night market stall goods that cost dozens of yuan each. Their hair and beards were not trimmed, giving people a slovenly, unkempt feeling. What was even more strange was that these four people's hands were full of calluses, and at a glance, one could see that they were engaged in manual labor. Such four people, no matter which construction site, brick factory, small coal mine, or any other place was normal, only appearing in Shinta Tianin's office was strange. "Lei, come here." Shinta Tianin waved to Charlotte. Charlotte walked over. He did not deliberately stare at the four people. That would be impolite. Shinta Tianin said, "You should get to know these friends. Well, their names are a bit complicated. Uncle Fu, why don't you introduce them?" Fu Chuanfa nodded and then introduced them to Charlotte one by one. "He's Park Taiji, Kim Jinwan, Park Kinlai, and Kim Daho. They are two brothers from Yinbian." Most of the people in Yinbian were Koreans. No wonder their names were similar to Koreans. Although Charlotte was curious about what these four people were doing and why they were here, he didn't lose his manners on the surface. He smiled and nodded, greeting them one by one. The four of them also nodded at Charlotte respectfully. It seemed that Fu Chuanfu or Shinta Tianin had told them something before they came. After greeting each other, Fu Chuanfu said, "Mr. Xia, the four of them are my former subordinates. They could do anything and are trustworthy. I've already informed them. If there's anything you need them to do in the future, don't hesitate to ask. They'll do anything for you." After Fu Chuanfu finished speaking, Jin Dahu and the other three bowed to Charlotte together. It seemed to be a declaration, the Korean declaration. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, "Fu Chuanfu probably has a history in the past, otherwise he wouldn't have subordinates." These four people looked rustic, but they were neither servile nor overbearing in front of Shinta Tianin. Obviously, they were not ordinary people. There was a fierce atmosphere between their eyebrows. Fu Chuanfu said they could do anything for me, including breaking the law. I'm a consultant of 101 innings. I'd better not get involved with these people. Otherwise, Long Bing and Ba Shi will definitely skin me alive. Charlotte thought like this in his heart, but he still said politely, "Thank you. If there's a need, I'll tell them." Shinta Tianin looked at Charlotte and said, "You probably know why I asked Uncle Fu to gather his former subordinates, right?" Charlotte nodded. He walked over and pulled Shinta Tianin aside. He whispered, "Do you have to do this?" Shinta Tianin was slightly stunned, and then he suddenly laughed again. "Do you think I asked them to do something illegal? I'm not that stupid. I asked Uncle Fu to gather his former subordinates. They're mainly to protect me, and they won't kill anyone." Charlotte breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm relieved." Shinta Tianin said, "Uncle Fu used to be an officer of a mercenary army in Myanmar. These people are all his subordinates. They've been to the battlefield and are very powerful. I'll use them, and they'll provide professional security. I'm relieved to have them around." Charlotte said, "If you don't feel at ease, you can ask me to accompany you." Shinta Tianin said with a smile, "I know you're very powerful, and I want you to accompany me and protect me. But won't Miss Liang be jealous? If you stay with me every day, she'll definitely come to ask for you." Charlotte smiled bitterly and didn't say anything. However, he believed that if he stayed with Shinta Tianin all day, Liang Xiao would definitely be jealous. With her straightforward character, it wouldn't be strange for her to come here to find someone. Shinta Tianin said, "Uncle Fu, take them to take care of things. Give them whatever they want." Fu Chuanfu said, "Okay." Then he left Shinta Tianin's office with the four old mercenaries. Shinta Tianin's eyes fell on Fu Mingmei. Fu Mingmei shrugged and said, "Well, I'll go out too. I don't want to be a third wheel." Shinta Tianin frowned, but he didn't say anything to Fu Mingmei. There were only Charlotte and Shinta Tianin left in the big office. The space was so big that it seemed too quiet and deserted. Xiao Lei said, "You made such a big office and used so many cold-tone things. Don't you think it's cold?" Shinta Tianin said, "I'm a woman in charge of such a big group with tens of thousands of employees. I have to create a cold atmosphere so that people will think that I'm not easy to get along with and talk to. They will also be afraid of me. In this way, it's good for my management." I know you have your own management style, but it's completely different from mine. Your management style is humane. Charlotte said, my company is small and has just started. If I want to keep people or attract talents, I must treat them well. The Wanxiang Group is a big company. You also said that you have tens of thousands of employees. If you manage them my way, it won't work. It's good that you understand this. Well, let's not talk about the company. Tell me what you've been doing these days. Shinta Tianyin looked at Charlotte expectantly. Charlotte knew what she wanted to know. He said, I've been doing clinical trials these days. Well, I've been doing experiments on rabbits. Shinta Tianyin said in surprise, you've been doing experiments on rabbits? She didn't say that her father was not a rabbit. Charlotte said with a smile, it's not as simple as you think, but I'm not going to explain it to you. Even if I did, you wouldn't understand. I've learned a lot these days, but I still need a volunteer to do the experiment. After all, your father is a human, not a rabbit. Speaking of this, he frowned slightly. According to my plan, I should find a volunteer today, but I really can't think of anyone who would be willing. Shinta Tianyin suddenly interrupted Charlotte. Isn't there one in front of you? You? Charlotte had never thought that the queen of the Wanxiang Group would be his lab rat. He just proposed it because he wanted Shinta Tianyin to find a loyal employee for him. He didn't expect that she would do it herself. Shinta Tianyin said, the person you want to treat is my father. Why can't I be your lab rat for him? Don't hesitate. Come on, what do you want me to do? Charlotte looked around and found that Shinta Tianyin's big office only had her chair and desk. There wasn't even a sofa for others to sit on. He asked, do you have a lounge here? I need a quiet place where I won't be disturbed. Of course there is. Shinta Tianyin grabbed a remote control placed on the office table and pressed it lightly. The metal wall behind the desk suddenly opened, revealing a very elegant space with a TV, bed, sofa, and even a large indoor bathtub and a small bar full of famous wine. Charlotte smiled. I want to change offices with you. Shinta Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. If you want, I can give you this floor. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. Charlotte, after entering the secret lounge, Shinta Tianyin pressed the remote control again, and the metal wall closed again. However, the whole wall of the lounge was made of tempered glass, and the light was not affected at all. Through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, they could overlook the city scenery of Haizhu City. Well, there's absolutely no one here to disturb us. What do you want me to do now? Shinta Tianyin stared at Charlotte, waiting for his instructions. Charlotte glanced at her trousers and said with a headache, you used to wear skirts. Why are you wearing trousers today? It's cold. Of course I have to wear trousers. Does this have anything to do with your experiment? Charlotte shook his head. It doesn't matter. You can lie down on the bed. It's fine if you don't take off your trousers. Shinta Tianyin blushed slightly, but she didn't say anything. She walked to the bed and took off her high heels. Then, she climbed onto the bed and lay down. Charlotte also walked to the bed and took out a deerskin wallet from the inside pocket of his suit. There were dozens of silver needles in the buckskin wallet. During this period of time, he had been immersed in the world of acupuncture and had carried this bag of silver needles with him. Whenever he was free, he would insert a few needles into his own body and figure out the knowledge of acupuncture and acupoints. Now, these silver needles are going to be used on Shinta Tianyin. I'm ready. Are you ready? Charlotte took out a silver needle from the buckskin wallet. Shinta Tianyin was a little nervous. She pursed her lips and softly answered, okay. Only then did Xia Lei reach out to take off her socks, and then pulled down her trousers. But when he pulled, he was depressed to find that her trousers were big at the top and small at the bottom. He could only pull them up a little, which was not enough. He braced himself and pulled them up again, but it still didn't work. You'd better take them off. Charlotte was depressed. Really have to take it off? Shinta Tianyin's face immediately turned red, revealing a rare, shy expression. Her shy look was really captivating, so beautiful that it took one's breath away. Charlotte braced himself and nodded. Actually, the instep can do it, but the blood vessels on the instep are too thick, so it won't be effective. Also, I need more places to insert the needles so that I can get more information, so take them off. Turn around. Shinta Tianyin's voice was very soft, and she no longer had the air of a queen. Charlotte turned around, but he thought to himself, "Won't I still see it later? Why do you want me to turn around?" There was a rustling sound behind him. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.